Okay, so for anyone who's confused why we have a particularly girthy chat today, Yoji has decided for the third time to be a professional, and he's leaving the streaming lifestyle behind. So we support him in that, and thank you, Yoji, for being on the previous episodes. Good luck with the IRL, and maybe we'll see you again in a few months when you come back to streaming.
Give it 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Next podcast.
Can't stay away. It's too addictive.
But yeah, so today's chat we're going to be covering all the new balance changes, the new Keystone stuff, ascendancy changes, and then we're going to try and bring it all back up, talking about the new league. So to start off with, what's everyone been up to since it's been a couple of weeks since we've all been here?
What have you been up to, CuteDog?
I'm playing this new fantastic game. It's kind of like PoE. It's called PUBG. Still. I'm not playing it anymore because I got back into the beta with all these new changes. I'm like really excited about it. It's like fun again. Previously, it was like I'd log into beta, I'd like look at my characters, and I just like exit the game and go play PUBG. But now I'm back in PoE. It's pretty fun, and excited about Splatter Arrow. Excited about like so many things, man. Not so excited about Harbinger, but we'll talk about that later. And yeah, just trying to balance like life and gaming and stuff. And like me and my girlfriend, we got this relationship journal, and every day it has a prompt for you to fill out. And mine, under the prompt of like something I'm trying to improve on this year, and I put down balancing real life with video games. I mean, I play like way too much. So.
Very wise.
Yoji, I'll be joining you soon. Hi, Yoji.
Yeah, that's right. Wait, so you play too much video games?
I think so, yeah. Like, well, not to the point where it's like interfering with like work or my relationship. Like for now, my girlfriend's like super cool with it and everything. But I can see like in the future, especially with like streaming and like I play off stream too, right? I think most of you guys do as well. So that's like extra hours. So I understand where Yoji's coming from when like you have a full-time job. Can't all be as lucky as Tarke, Raiz, and Ziggy to just play and have no job.
No job? Excuse me?
Excuse me?
Excuse me? Nobody understands.
Yeah, so that's about it.
What do you mean, real job?
Excuse me, I'm a content creator and maker of YouTube videos. Visit my Patreon page.
Hey, I'm an online personality, yeah. Let's get it right, okay?
I'm just not saying that. You guys are cool. I wish I could do that. That'd be so sick.
I don't know. I've been playing the Turmoil stuff. It's okay. Got kind of bored. Couldn't really find the stuff for the builds that I really wanted to play, so I like ended up dying on a Slayer that was like Earthquake Bleed, but he was like level 70. And then I abandoned my other two characters, like 90 and like 60 or something. I just stopped playing them, and I moved on to the beta. And I've been playing this like Cock Icy thing. It's like cast on crit, but it's also cost priest, and it uses 2 spells on cast on crit. And I played like Glacial Cascade with Ice Nova, and it's all blue items except the weapons, obviously, because I used the kitty cat. Huh? I used the. Can you guys actually hear the cat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I used the what's it called? The
Hidden
thing that you
potential?
use with only blue items.
Hidden potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hidden potential? Yeah, hidden potential. And yeah, I don't know. That shit is so strong, to be honest. I don't know if they're not going to nerf it in some way. It seems to work so freaking well with anything now.
Well, it's generic damage, so it kind of...
Well,
works
yeah,
like
but
that.
like just having now that, you know, CI, I guess, is unplayable, everybody's kind of leaning towards life. In my opinion, CI is not unplayable, by the way. I'm just saying that, like, that generally is in people's minds, right? Like, all you really get is just life and a bunch of resistances. You don't even need that many resistances if you pick up, like, the Alira point and everything. And especially if you're a berserker on top of everything, and you've got access to so many resistance nodes. It's pretty crazy. I feel like a lot of, especially softcore people, are going to use it probably in the future.
For any non-attack build, basically, we don't want like a bunch of attack affixes on your gear. That's pretty damn strong.
Yeah, I mean, well, for attack builds, it kind of works too, because attack builds, well, we don't really know to what extent, but, you know, you still use poison and you still use bleed and they're changing bleed now. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm kind of happy with the bleed, but I understand that on a lot of builds it's pretty meh. And they said that they will be like completely revamping it, so it works really well with all of those things. So for consistency, it's great.
What about you, Ziggy?
I loved the Mayhem race, but I didn't play what's the new one called?
Turmoil.
That's Turmoil. Yeah, decided to skip the Turmoil. Less of Mayhem, you know. I don't really care about the stuff being voided, so I'm like, I was like, yeah, it seems like more balanced and everything. I was like, yeah, it looks alright, but I really enjoyed Solo Self-Found in Mayhem, though, but yeah, I decided to skip Turmoil. Was doing some traveling anyway. But in terms of beta, I like for the start of the beta, I spent all my time testing like damage over time builds. Did like, you know, bleed poison stuffs and things like that. But now kind of, I don't know, I've lost all my hype for that aspect. So now I've been just doing like testing the other side of the equation, I guess. So I did Glacial Cascade Mines, which is so good. New Glacial Cascade is so tasty, and I discovered a secret. Mines are actually fun. I reckon there's a giant global conspiracy regarding mines by all the mines players to say that mines they're too clunky and they're too slow. You don't want to play mines, and they're just trying to keep their gear and everything cheap. I reckon it's actually really fucking fun though, and pretty good. Pretty good.
Some videos I know about that, the frostbolt mines and stuff like that.
There are some really powerful mine builds out there.
The thing I like is that 88% increased area of effect you get with Glacial Cascade. Oh, it's so insane. I use concentrated effect and I still off screen with it in all directions. It just goes in every direction off the screen with conc effect. It's crazy.
Same.
It's so good. So yeah, loving that. I think it's just like, I never played a mine build before, but I think there's just like enough quality of life for it with the detonate totem, and I use castle damage taken with the detonate mines gem as well, and with the nodes and with stuff on Saboteur. It's it's quite nice now. Quite nice. I've been enjoying that.
This is a lot of damage. It's fun because you don't really like, it's so in one spot. You don't feel like traveling all over the skill tree, and it makes it like really efficient defensively too. And you probably like MOM?
Yeah, I went Mind Over Matter. That's the only thing I kind of feel is a little weaker on mine builds. Is it's a bit difficult to get all the defenses you might want, so you kind of have to do like blasphemy curses or your. I just went life Mind Over Matter, but it does alright, especially because I just exploit everything on the screen anyway. So good offense, that sort of.
That's kind of like, for instance, for like speedrunning and stuff. Like Fire Nova mine is actually really good. It's better than like Lightning Trap for shadow play, but because you're just so weak defensively early on, it's pretty hard to play. Like you have to like play around blasphemy or something and stuff like that, and obviously for leveling that's not that great, but you just kind of fall over. But otherwise it's pretty speedy. It gets really fast, and because you don't need the damage from like your weapon, you can get like a pretty speedy weapon too, and just zoom around with shield charge. Saves a lot of time.
But yeah, for me, so I had this similar kind of thing where I was like, Turmoil, that seems like a less interesting Mayhem. And also I was going to an event 2 days after it started, so I kind of just wrote it off. I played the first few days just to try it out, but it just, after playing Mayhem, I didn't even like notice I was playing Turmoil. I don't know if anyone else felt like that when you swap from one to the other. But the last thing I've been doing in the beta was self-cast Frostbolt, which seemed really good. And then I got to like the bosses, and I was like,
Yeah, but that's everybody.
Yeah,
it
is every build.
That's everybody. Yeah. Like I was the same way. I'm like, does my build really suck this much? I don't think my build is that bad, guys. And then like the bosses just never take any damage. It's pretty crazy.
It's always really funny though.
Viewers rip on you every time.
Yeah. Everybody's playing 2.6, and then everybody's like, "Wow, this build does no damage. Nice boss kill, dude."
Like, God damn it! Come on, guys.
It's on the road.
It's even
So I was
better when
enjoying
you
the
go into them
Cascade
at, like,
mines.
64 or 65 underleveled, and you're like, it's not too bad. I like two tapped
Yeah.
that rare. It was okay. Then you get to the boss, you're like, oh, factory boss. Yeah, that's kind of scary.
I don't know. I like that though. I always thought that they should put more pressure on like actually having to get some single target rather just invest into AoE. Now you kind of have to take that into consideration. I always thought that it could be something that possibly could add into like build diversity and what people can do. So it's kind of nice to see, but I can also see how people get pissed off. And also it could get to a point which would be really bad if like the bosses aren't rewarding enough and then nobody ever kills bosses because you can sustain maps with the Atlas. Like we've had that happen before and it was pretty bad. So I don't know.
It's the problem is it's really hard on some setups to actually get a decent single target setup. Anything that's actually better than your AoE setup, because if you're rocking your 5 or 6 link on your AoE clear and then you put your 4 link or you get your glove craft or whatever, it makes it a 5 link. It ends up doing like the same DPS as your AoE skill anyway all of the time. It's like not really that big a difference. I've done that a few times where I've been like, this is not that much better. So unless you're doing gem swapping for every boss, that's not really everyone's preference.
I really like glove or helmet swapping when you get like an essence crafted thing and you just swap the item itself. That's pretty cool, but you have to have like level gems for that because you're not leveling the gems in the glove swap if you're just mapping. Yeah.
I think
after a week or two it'll be fine because like before you kill the boss in what, half a second, 1 second. Let's say they double, triple the boss's health. Now you're at like just a couple seconds. So after a week or two, I think even like an average player.
I don't know. It doesn't feel like that.
This is
it feels worse.
The issue
right?
is like so currently, let's say just with like my current like stupid Frostbolt character is like you get to the boss, you drop the frost. I can't remember that frost orb to like lower their res. You curse them, Vol lightning trap. Shit, reapply new one, new curse, new Vol lightning trap. It's still alive. 3rd charge, and it's like, it's when you have to do that like 2-3 setup thing that you notice just how crazy the new HP is. At least early on, when you're like having to recurse them, you're like, oh god, this is bad. Yeah. I don't know.
It's I don't know why it feels so bad.
Yeah, it feels like it's like 3 or 4 times, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even though it's it's doubled, and you're like, in theory, it should only take me another extra second or two, but. It seems to be a lot worse than that.
Have they actually said it's doubled? Because it feels like more than that to me.
It feels like more.
I feel like people have just said, oh, they've doubled HP, but it seems to be way more than that, like 4 times even.
I don't remember.
Maybe it's just like the lack of the dot effects, Maybe people are just so used to dotting everything up with poison and ignite. I don't know. Like I played Frostblades. SSF by the way on the like the turmoil and bosses felt pretty rough. Like I didn't have a whole lot of gear, and especially with Frostblades you sort of have to get like all you care about is having enough damage for bosses. Everything else just you have too much damage anyway, right? But there's no way of getting like a proper single target, so you just single target with Frostblades. And so even then it kind of felt rough, right? So now like I can't really imagine it now. It really might be getting, and that's like Frostblades are strong. They're probably with enough gear. You don't even need that much. They're probably the strongest like melee build, and well, they actually do feel like melee. It's not exactly like Sunder. They do feel melee. So that's a fucking strong build, and it still takes a while on something like this. So in 3.0, I can't even imagine that shit. It's probably gonna be crazy.
But I was thinking of making a petition actually, since you mentioned the dots quickly. I think we should just rename them from damage over time to just over time.
Okay.
So I had to. That was really
it does
slow
feel
burn.
that way.
Yeah.
At least for ignites. Yeah, but they're working on it. Come on, give them a break.
Yeah.
But yeah, about the Turmoil race, real quick. What the fuck were they thinking? Like, I don't know. It was basically, hey, here's mayhem, and here's 4 times less mayhem. Have fun. It's like I can understand if they did Turmoil and then did mayhem, but like, I don't know what they were thinking.
I really wanted to
Then,
see
like-
like some data on that because I guess they were responding to the requests of not having a non-voided one. So like, okay, we'll give you a non-voided one, but it's obviously going to be a little less insane. I wonder if it panned out that a lot more people played Turmoil or if they played Mayhem. I feel like Mayhem, but
I think the thing was that it wasn't necessarily that people had an issue that being voided. They had an issue of no MTX. And they introduced the new MTX system the same time that Turmoil came out. So it could have been voided and you would have still had your MTX, which is the real problem. Because most people were kind of like, oh, I don't get to keep my character. Oh, well. But I think people kind of came to terms with it because of how fun Mayhem was. But it was MTX, I don't know. Go on, Riz.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Because I think they would have never done Mayhem. Honestly, like like how big of an impact on this? Like who really gives a fuck from standard about like the voided and all that? Like I can't imagine like these people would actually have an impact on the decision from GGG like that. But they tried. I don't think they would have ever done Mayhem if it wasn't for the fact that they knew that the MTX system was coming out. But then they fucked up the MTX system because that was supposed to come out before Mayhem. And they released it and they released it again and then it didn't work. So yeah, that went away. So that probably really hurt their numbers. And also they had all this promotion for the beta and everything. And the stuff didn't work. That must have lost them a lot of money.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's a pretty big flop. But yeah.
How about
It's
that
really sad
MTX
to see.
system though?
Oh, so juicy. Oh,
God,
good.
it's so good.
so good. It's like the best. Like that's one of my top 3 things for 3.0. Like just being able to do that and have leveling experience, looking good.
I told you guys it was good, didn't I? Remember
So good.
we were talking
I
about
remember
this
back
before
in
it
the
came
day.
Oh, piss off, Mr. Ziggy Smugs.
I
know
what told
I mean,
you it
I
was
tried
good.
it out too when it
told you.
came out. There's that clip of me like clicking furiously through everything, and my character swapping colors, and then it crashes. Yeah, I killed it,
It's so
but it was
convenient.
fun for the couple seconds that I tried it, and now that it's in, it's really cool. I think they did an amazing job with it.
I think the only thing that I'm not too keen on about it is when it comes to like hideout decoration and stuff. That is a bit just kind of like there's so much stuff in it and it's not that easy to sort through. And also I'm one of those dudes who has like 1,000 pets and I love just having like loads of pets in my hideout, so it's like a little zoo. And one of the weird things about it is if you have multiples of the same pet, it's not that intuitive. So it's like if you have 3 lizards, for example, and you want to carry 2 about with you, drop 1 on the floor, you've got to play this weird like reclaim minigame, which is a bit clunky. But other than that, it's so much better than it was. It's so much better than it was, and that's like the only complaint I can come up with.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing for skill gems actually, because I'm using 2 glacial cascades, and then like you don't know which one the MTX applies to, so you have to de-equip and re-equip. That's like the one confusing thing about it. They definitely need to add some sort of tick or something to the gem that's getting it. But yeah, I mean, it's really not a big deal.
I like the hideout system though. Like when you went into it for the first time, you saw you had like 200 trees or like 100 of this item. Because before it was like, okay, I know I have to grind Cat Arena like for ages if I want Embers, right? And Embers like super expensive, it was like 18,000 reputation. So you're like, and you go in and now you have like 50. I'm like, oh my god, I don't have to grind it anymore. It feels so good, and like the fog and all that stuff.
I haven't even.
Maybe
looked
you guys,
at it,
you guys weren't hideout connoisseurs.
Me and CuteDog, we're going to drop you guys off. We're going to rename them Simclast, and it's just like
yeah, I don't know.
But
I haven't even looked at it. It didn't even cross
I make
my
the same
mind.
hideout every league, the exact same one. I like go look at my standard one. I just like copy it, and it takes like a couple hours. But getting the embers was such like
Couple hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you layer stuff on top of each other, man, it gets really messy.
Yeah, it's gotta look good. So when someone comes to trade with you, they're like, "Oh my god, your hideout's amazing. Here's a discount."
There's 2 goals. There's 2 goals. You either want it so good that when someone comes in, they're like, "Damn, son," or it needs to be so like particle heavy that they crash. I get really oddly satisfied when I make someone crash leading into my hideout. I then realize, shit, I need to sell that item, and I'm like, please log back in.
Now you'll just have to
Crash
settle for taking down to like 240p instead.
Pretty good.
But to move on from the MTX system, which we're mostly happy with, there's been some new skill gems that have been teased. How do we feel about them?
Dark Pact's cool. It's pretty cool.
Generally
It's cool.
speaking, or do we want to talk about specific ones and talk about?
Well, individually, but I was going to let you guys go. Like, so, for example, Dark Pact, since you brought it up, like, what's the group verdict on it so far?
Wait, actually, Stormburst is on the screen right now.
It's a rotating playlist, mate. Just
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Dark Pact. I like how you know how when they display these things, it's probably with an under-leveled character, maybe not even with full ascendancy, maybe not even using full links, definitely not using like 5 or 6 links. And so Dark Pact looked pretty good for the self-cast. It doesn't take that much health away. The massive like more multiplier. If like, do you have that image of the Dark Pact gem that got shown yesterday that someone has?
No,
but it's like 100. I don't know. Someone linked it to me. I don't have it anymore. But it's basically like if you cast it on yourself, it's 150% more. So the average chaos hit is like mid 600s. And
Wait,
so
is
the
it
AoE,
in the game?
No, it's not in the game yet. It's like
It's
just like data
data
mine
mine
stuff.
it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it showed the gem, and if that can be believed, like the AoE is going to be, it's going to be decent. You know, you can use it with shield charge. It's a spell, so you can scale it that way.
Good.
It in the video looked good for like.
It looked good. I mean, that's definitely not like GGG.
Yeah.
Always in their videos, they're like, don't
it's
pick
a
up
little,
that
like,
much AoE, guys. So
Yeah.
like, they never really have a whole lot of AoE.
Yeah.
So it looked really good. I don't know. A lot of people
Probably
were
not with-
questioning the AoE. It was nice.
Probably not with AoE nodes on the tree. Probably not with Dying Sun. Which Dying Sun's fine, by the way. Yeah, it's 25%. It's fine. Can't get an extra projectile, but it's
Is
fine.
it?
I think it's alright.
Can't you
But-
still get an extra projectile, by the way, if you use like the jewel and stuff?
I don't know.
Pretty sure you can like just break the thing for plus. We're getting way ahead of ourselves.
It's
but-
like 4 or 2% less,
More
right? Now
investment,
that you can
yeah.
get.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
14 to like 10% on Alchemist as well. So, but yeah, Dark Knight looks good. I mean, it's a massive hitting chaos skill. So when you start the league, you're not gonna like booty blast yourself to reflect, which is really nice. If the AOE, and it said like +4 radius if you use it on yourself.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be pretty fun, I think. You know, there's so many ways to get the leech back. It looks like it was only taking maybe like 10% of your health.
Well,
So,
on the
yeah.
thing that someone
like
linked
8.
in chat, the data mine thing, so apparently it's 6% of Skelly's life, and then I'm guessing if there's no Skelly, it will hit you for 6%, I would just assume. Do we have any confirmation of like how it works with CI? Like, will you just one-shot yourself with CI with it?
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
It says live,
it
so
leaks
Yeah.
blood. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a different. I think it had like a different wording than anything else in terms of, because they had it written down on the
yeah.
on the thread, so maybe they had a wording that would like avoid so that you kill yourself to CI, because it wasn't.
wasn't a
Gosh,
hit.
it wasn't like dodgeries or anything like that. It had a different wording to it, or they worded it differently on the description on the preview. So maybe.
So I'm excited for Dark Pact. I think it's gonna be really nice to have a chaos skill like that.
Hmm.
I might play it as a berserker.
I
it seems like we're not going to use it with skeletons, really, except maybe for bosses.
Or in
You have to
hardcore if
invest
you're
quite a
scared.
bit into. Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's not that hard to get a bit of generic leech and just leech back that amount. And just popping around with the extra AoE should be enough to just clear with that. And then the problem is that Skelly life without investment is pretty low, especially compared to what you would have if you were building a character for this, which, you know, if you're getting like 7k plus life or something, then you're not going to get that on Skellies unless you put a fair bit of investment into that. And is that really worth the investment? I don't know. Like just for the boss killing?
It might. I mean, in terms of like actual single target, it could do a lot, because I'm pretty sure. What's the name of that thing? The thing that blows your minions up?
What, a heartbound loop or something?
No.
Oh, the minion
Minion
instability.
stability.
Yeah, minion
Yeah.
stability. I'm pretty sure that scales with minion damage. So you could actually.
That's like not even going to like kick in though, because you do 6% of their life. How long do skeletons last? Let me look this up. I'm skeptical. Hold on.
I think it would do decently. You would kill the skeletons fast.
Summon skeletons. Oh, they do last 20 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
There's probably enough. That's enough time to kill them then, I guess.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you're taking 20 seconds to kill a boss fight, I mean, there's no arguing whether or not the skill's bad or good. You know?
But hold on, if you're using a totem, it just keeps resummoning them though. So what are you going to summon them with? You know, manually cast your skellies and then do it? Then your skellies are just going to die.
There were like two things I was thinking was doing some like weird heartbound loop shenanigans to cheese them out. So you could maybe do some stupid like Scourge, Necro, heartbound loop. So there's like some synergy there. I don't know. Some people have said they might, if they make another good like channeled skill, or if poison ever becomes a thing again, you do like wither cast when channeling setups. I don't know, but you could also just do like Valve summon skellies right before a boss, then like spam button. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, Val Skelly seems probably like it's going to be the way to go then.
It does damage. Like for instance, something that like because back in the day, before the changes to SRS, you couldn't really kill Shaper with SRS. Like, you could kind of do it, but it was incredibly hard. Like, almost impossible to do it. And now with the changes, I tried it a couple times, and it was quite decent. But having minion stability has made a huge difference. Like, it's very noticeable. So that amount of damage, if you can notice it on Shaper, now the fight goes, I think you could definitely notice it with skeletons, too. The skeletons should have slightly less, and your totem, you'll definitely be killing the skeletons faster than the totem can spawn them, I think. Because like you can get like a lot of skeletons, you know. So you'd have to reach that cap, and then it like starts over summoning from the first ones and all that. I think you do pretty okay, but I think they also changed something with like skeleton numbers. No.
Yeah, they've got like a new cap and stuff. Also, with Spell Echo, I'm guessing they'd only get damaged like once every 2 casts, so to speak. So if you're like going like pure cast speed route with Dark Pact, then it's like, do you actually want to use Echo, or do you want to be killing the skins faster, sort of thing?
You'd cast and channeling that shit.
Maybe.
With like wither and then cast and channeling, and you're just bouncing the shit, and your totem summoning the skeletons, and everything's blowing up, and there's chaos and poison, and you know.
Yeah, like in a world where we use poison, yeah, I agree with you, but I don't know if we're using poison or not.
Level 20 summon skeletons has a base life of 1700. Zombies, for comparison, are 4600.
Damn.
So their base life is kind of low.
Here's my question. On the gem, like obviously this is all could be changed before release, and maybe this data mine isn't even correct, but underneath the skeleton line on that gem, so 6% of skeleton's life dealt as chaos, there's like a base chaos damage. Does that also get added to the skeletons, or is that only if you self-cast it? Because that average hit is pretty big if that's like the level 20 value. And if that's added,
that should be either way. Like I think that's just like a baseline damage that always gets applied.
Yeah, but then, that's what I assumed. Like that's the base, then it has the skelly life on top, sort of thing.
So then the thing is, if you're self-casting it, do you think it's 6% of your life dealt as chaos damage around you? Because it doesn't state that. It only states 6% of skeleton's life. Because let's say you have 5,000 life, that's 300 extra chaos damage on top of this. If you self-cast it on top of like a 600 something average hit, which is like the most massive chaos skill. Actually, probably one of the most massive like skills in general for AoE.
You're actually, that's an interesting point, because it doesn't specify that you deal a portion of your life at all. Like this is what we've been assuming, but the data mine stuff doesn't actually say that at all.
Yeah, but the data mine is like, you know, I don't know.
It might.
They've data mined so many things that just never came into fruition and were just outright wrong.
Yeah.
So to move on to the other 2 skills, what do you reckon about Charge Dash, the little Naruto thing?
What the fuck? I thought they're gonna nerf movement abilities, and then they released this shit. It seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. People have been talking a lot of shit about it, but it scales with like your attack speed and your movement speed and like AoE, and I don't know.
The one thing which seems interesting about it, so again, going back to the beautiful world of data mining, is the data mine doesn't have the melee tag, meaning you could potentially use it with bows and wands, which could be pretty cool. Because the main issue I have with that kind of a skill is that you don't want to go through the same pack twice. It's like all or nothing. So if you're going crit, you have to go crit. So if you're using like some juicy like 10% crit wand or something, go through the pack once. So, but what about boss damage? You've then got barrage for bosses, and that seems like that would actually be a really solid build. But yeah.
But then like how does that work? Like how do you? Because it has to make sense, right? And you're going through it with a wand. Like, what are you doing with that wand?
Okay, do you remember that scene in Lord of the Rings where Legolas jumps on the shield and goes down the stairs?
Gotcha.
It's that, right? Just like going off, like wanding and shit. Like, bruh, that's a thing, yeah.
Huh? No. I don't see it. I don't know. To me, GGG is very much about like things making sense.
Really?
Split arrow, neutral.
You've never jumped through a doorway before, a closed door?
Well, no. I mean, technically, you don't really know what's going on when you're jumping through it. Maybe you're like when you're leap slamming, you're actually going to another dimension and then reappearing on the other side.
Okay.
No, yeah, maybe that's like one example, but like I always thought that the shield charge, for instance, didn't make sense, that you can't shield charge with wands, but then I just think they fucked up something with the coding on it, where it's somehow just not working, even though wands have damage, but you can't shield charge. I don't know. Have they ever said anything about that?
Well, it's got the melee tag. That's why.
Yeah, maybe.
One's on a melee weapon. That's it, basically.
Damn.
That's ugly. That doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I think the ability it looks really, really, really strong. And I thought that they will do something with movement abilities, maybe, and like the general speed, because it does seem like they're trying to slow things down. Especially now with like the release of the crit stuff, where, crit targets like single target more than anything, really, with the like status ailment changes and all of that stuff. It targets single target more than anything, and so if they're reducing that, it is now clear to me that they definitely, and increasing the boss life and all that, that they want people to be more focused on single target. And so the movement ability change thing, I was hoping that it's gonna come into fruition, but this definitely gives me makes me a little bit more skeptical about that.
For the people that want to use this as movement ability, it only scales, like the speed of the ghost is scaled by your move speed. Attack speed is only like the number of little explosions. And like it's hard to get move speed, right? So you're looking at Pathfinder,
it's like
and you really want to go
Queen of the
fast.
Forest,
You're looking at Queen of the Forest and like
slightly faster already if you're using it for movement.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Does it just add a bit of move speed, do you reckon? Or do you reckon it like multiplies your move speed?
They said it'll be like slightly faster than your normal run speed.
So it's not actually that like good as a movement skill, really.
It depends how much extra it adds, but it's kind of like, imagine if it was like a slightly juiced up Quicksilver with phasing.
It's like using phase run basically as a move skill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you're also attacking on the way too.
Yeah. So it seems like it's more intended to be an offensive skill then.
Yeah. So the way that it's worded, if I remember correctly from what I've read up on it, is so you shoot the projection out. Once the projection's out, that's it. You can't cancel it in any way. You have to teleport to it. The longer you hold out, the further it goes. It's.
What do you mean you can't cancel?
Once
you can just log out.
Oh,
it's like playing old Flame Blast, where you would like charge up a 10-stack Flame Blast, and then you would see that tiny zombie come out of the ground slowly, and then once it's out, it's like pops the reflect aura, and you're like, oh, okay, and you gotta log.
Dude, that just sounds like the most rage-inducing Reddit thread ever. Streamer cheats his own build. Like, you just have a compilation of someone like Mathel like canceling the thing or something.
That's how you used to do, man. Well, they changed it later, because now with Flame Blast you can't do that anymore. Because like even if you log out, it releases at the same time, so you just come back in.
I would assume the same thing would happen with this, to be honest.
Yeah. But yeah. Maybe something's gonna happen. Yeah.
I can see a lot of people like killing themselves with it. I also think it's, for the people who want to build it with caster and channeling, that seems really silly to me. Like, it might be amazing, but the idea of having a skill which locks you into movement and then only does damage on, like, set intervals seems like a really easy way to just kill yourself in the middle of a pack. Like, you go, yeah, oh, the timing was off, dead. I don't know.
I mean, it depends. If you use, because like, it also depends how the targeting is, right? Because if the targeting is the same as it is on any channeling skill, wherever your cursor is,
it does it on where the cursor.
Yeah. It uses the cast and channeling. Like, you could, pre-cast into a certain direction. So like, you click and then you hold down the button and you move it.
Oh, you almost like let it kill everything, then you teleport once it's. Oh, that could be cool actually.
Yeah, so that would be pretty cool. I don't know. Casting channeling is surprisingly strong in my opinion. Like, I've used it a couple times now to level, and I don't know. It feels good. I always thought that it's gonna feel really bad because of the delay, and I think they even nerfed it because they used to with quality have like reduced delay, I think, but I'm not sure about that. But it still feels pretty good. Like, once you've got it leveled up, it definitely feels like a pretty fast cast.
Yeah.
I
don't like about
also
it.
has a little like more damage thing on it as well. It's not crazy, but the gem itself is a little multiplier. So
yeah. I don't like is it doesn't cast your spell, the CWC skill, until 0.35 seconds. It's not like instant and then there's a cooldown so you can't like right click spam it. It's like you hold it down and then 0.35 seconds later the first spell goes off, which is like kind of annoying, but she can work around that.
It gets better. It gets better when you get levels because it reduces that cooldown. And like, I think it's just different. It's hard to get used to, sort of, because normally with an ability you want to click and the thing dies instantly and that's it. Well, with this, it's like, you go, like, for instance, if you were to use Scorching Ray, you go like an arc, right? You're supposed to do this rather than just do this. So if you do this with everything, it works pretty well. But if you just do that, then it doesn't really work. So it's not instantaneous in that way.
I will say that mechanically this skill is really interesting and different looking like to play, right?
It does look cool.
They're definitely trying something a bit different here, which is pretty exciting. Like, I can't even... when I look at this and look at the video, I'm like, I don't even imagine what that's going to feel like to play as a skill, which that's kind of exciting, because usually you can look at my skills and you'd be like, oh yeah, it's kind of like this other skill. Like, it'll look a bit different, but this actually seems like, I don't even know what that's going to play like. What does that feel like to play? I don't know, will it be really awkward? Will it be really smooth?
That's the one good thing. Like, the Stormburst thing is a little bit... It's a cool skill, but it's mechanically quite boring. But with both Dark Pact and Charge Dash, you can tell they've actually been, like, really thinking something up. So, I don't know if do we know how many other gems we're expecting to get, if any?
Just support gems. The, 13 support gems or whatever we're getting.
Okay, so no
Pretty
more
sure it's just the 3 skills.
Okay.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
I was hoping we'd get, like,
You think so, or they said that?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they mentioned 3 at one point. That would be how many would be
a nice surprise. 10 new active skill
Maybe
gems.
not publicly.
With 10 new acts. I think it's surprises,
I think it's just,
right? Surprises.
They said there would be 5 skill gems supposedly. Really? Wow. Okay. I thought it was just this 3. Wow, that's exciting then. If there's going to be more.
Yeah.
I mean,
At
these
some
are
point,
definitely
could be after launch.
mechanically they're a lot more interesting. Like, but it I don't know. I'm so skeptical of that. Like what Ziggy talked about, how it's going to feel, because I guess it sort of feels like a moving flame blast type of thing. But like flame blast feels pretty okay. Maybe not nowadays because but like it feels okay. It doesn't feel too bad if you're just standing around. And this would be the same thing. And the last ability of the 3, the little ball sacks, it's the same thing, right? You just kind of stand there, and when you release it, it then goes off. So I'm kind of worried about that not feeling that great, unless you can really scale it up where like it travels really fast. Maybe then.
I can imagine with like enough cast speed on it, it could be pretty cool. So the way I know that skill works is, or the way I think it works, you shoot out the little orbs or balls, as Raiz calls them. The balls do damage. Then when you let go, they then explode for more damage, right? So it's like the projectile, then a delayed AoE on the release.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, this deals initial damage when it's going through the mobs?
Oh, a tiny bit.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's really small amount.
So it's like it gently the balls caress your face and explode in a bukkake of damage, you know.
It definitely looks very satisfying to play though. From the video, it looked so satisfying to play. I don't know.
Smooth. Yeah.
Yeah, very.
I think I want to play this skill. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be really fun. But the thing that triggers me a little bit is in the video they show a lot of custom channel setups with it, because it looks flashy. But I'm like, inefficient, because it's a skill that you mandatorily have to. It's mandatory for you to release the channel, and when you do that, you interrupt your custom channel procs. So unless you have the timing of a god, you're gonna delay your custom channel triggers if you're trying to DPS with custom channel. So. It just you shouldn't use those things together. It doesn't make sense.
Is that going to be the next Reddit accuses Ziz of using bots? His timings are too good on releasing his channeling. It must be some auto channel right click.
He always releases the channel within a millisecond, exact millisecond of the next trigger.
You see CuteDog taking notes off camera
while typing and while pressing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Dude, I'm not gonna use Keystone channel. Yeah, actually, I might with Spark, but it's gonna be juicy.
How do you feel about the new Spark? We can transition and talk about the threshold jewels stuff.
It depends on charged dash, because like Spark has more than double the base damage of all Spark, right? So initially you don't need that many links. So losing the links to Keystone channel and charge dash isn't a big deal. And then depending on how fast you can get the charge dash. You can get Spark Projectile Helm if you want. Get 2 jewels for 4 more proj. So the Nova is gonna be like really nice. It's gonna shoot out more projectiles per second
2
than
jewels
Spark did.
That's like 50%.
That's a 50% reduced duration.
Dude, I did that widescreen stretching thing, where like you narrow down the top and bottom so you can see more to the left. If you have 1 increased duration cluster, or God forbid you want to use the gem, it still goes like 2 screens away with faster proj. And I was using like a level 1 faster proj. So maybe you don't need 2. Maybe you'll just use 1 and 1 duration set of nodes. But it's fine. Yeah, you're getting like 30 plus projectiles per second. VSpark was like 30 projectiles per second. So if you can get it fast enough, it will be the new VSpark.
How would you build it, like ascendancy wise? Like, how would you get enough movement speed?
So you're gonna have to go life based. Maybe you go Pathfinder, Queen of the Forest, right? Yeah. So, because I was talking to PoE Lab, where he does like 500% movement speed lab runner, and he's like, oh well, I can't do Uber with that. If you want to do damage, you have to knock it down to maybe like 300% move speed, and 300% is like pretty fast. And like one thing I've always said about move speed, it feels so much better than shield charge.
Yeah,
like miles better. If you can get it similar speeds, I'd much rather just run around.
It's why I play bow builds. I hate the shield spam stuff. Also, it's one of those things, if you need to keep into account that 300% on live is going to be even more in 3.0 because they've buffed all the evasion bases. So it's even more juiced up. And they've nerfed Flask, but they haven't nerfed like the Jade Flask or anything like that. So.
Yeah, Jade Stim Knight, it's going to be fat. Yeah. And then so like you get like a series step, Queen of the Forest, all the evasions. I don't know anything about evasion. I'm still kind of learning, but the way I'm thinking about it is it's basically the new VSpark, but clunkier, because you have to wait at a level 20 cast while channeling. You have to wait 0.35 seconds before it goes off. So it'll probably get 2 spark casts, right, for like 60-something projectiles, maybe like 80-something projectiles if you have the helm enchant, and then you just dash away.
How are you getting 80 projectiles?
So Spark at level 20, I think it's 7 projectiles total, right? And then if you use 2 jewels, that's 11. Use a helm enchant, that's 14. And then you can also get Dying Sun for 2 more, that's 16. So cast while channel is every 0.35 seconds. So you get 3 casts per second, which is 48 projectiles a second. And VSpark only had like 30 projectiles a second. So, but that's like given, most people won't go the Spark enchant, they'll probably go projectile speed. It's better because of the duration thing. So you reach 150 units, I think, before you reach the duration if you get enough projectile speed. So it's clunkier than VSpark, but it's the new VSpark if the
this is cool, man.
Scales.
I like
really
the
cool to
idea
hear.
if there's like an intern in the GGG offices freaking the fuck out right now. Just like, wait, what? How many sparks are there gonna be? Oh shit!
That's
Yeah,
not really
even-
crazy. I didn't know you
Delete,
could get
Yeah.
delete.
I mean, even if you don't use Dying Sun or the Proj helmet, it's gonna be. It all depends on Charge Dash. Like we don't know anything about it. No one's been able to test it. No one's been able to do any of that stuff. So if it sucks, then it won't work. But if you can get that move speed, oh my god.
How do you feel about the fact that we can't test the new skills and stuff?
It's just not ready, probably, right? Like, think about what's happened over the last 24, 48 hours with, like, things coming out off the cuff, and people are like, oh. And so they probably now, like, even if they were going to give it to us in beta, like, 2-3 days before, now they're probably like, actually, Reddit can't handle us giving them changes before patch notes. So we're not gonna give you guys anything.
I wish I
they-
had a queued up "You Can't Handle the Truth" soundboard right now.
Yeah. They have a weird approach, really, like to the beta in general. Like I understand where they're coming from because they got a lot of negative feedback last time with people being like, I played the beta. I don't even feel like playing the game anymore. Why would I play the game if I tested everything on the beta? Like that sort of approach, and I think it really got to them to the point where now they're like almost hiding information in a way because they're not releasing any patch notes or anything, and that's like a conscious decision from them that they've stated in the past that they won't release any patch notes. But it's really weird from a beta point of view because we're supposed to be testing things and checking things out, but like we don't know what the changes are. So how are we supposed to do this properly, really, outside of like a community effort? So that's like pretty weird. Also, I think they maybe didn't intend for it to be to this extent, but they are clearly behind on schedule a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
I felt like it was like get it out there, like let's just release this or show this.
I was talking a bit about this today on stream. It does feel like we're kind of going to be getting the finished stuff of this series of balance changes over the course of the league or in 3.1, because this stuff has had to take a backseat to the, well, frankly, like sheerly massive amount of content they've decided to do for this expansion. So it's not really that surprising.
To go slightly off topic, since we've kind of already done that, like, how did you guys react to the 4th of August release announcement? Because I remember I was at an event and someone told me when I was there, and I was just like, he's drunk, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then I got home that night, checked Reddit, and was like, oh shit, the 4th? What? Like, how did you respond to that?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a bit later than that.
Yeah,
I wasn't thinking
like
it was going to be
mid
like
to
later
late.
than halfway through the month, but I was thinking, yeah, like at least like 2 weeks in. That was pretty surprising.
I mean, they already moved it like 4 times or something. I think probably some people finally told them like, listen, you can't move this anymore. But yeah, when people were laughing about it and saying that it's going to be in December, I was like, no, I mean like mid-August seems reasonable. They did say that's the start, but I don't think that's actually going to happen, especially since already at that point we knew that like Act 8 was postponed and everything in the beta. And they're like still very actively adding things. And also they received the feedback. I think they didn't really expect to receive this much feedback when it came down to like what the mobs were doing. And now all the new mobs feel a lot better, especially in Act 8. They've got like a ton of new abilities. It feels
it's cool,
so much better. So yeah, and that's all of that is definitely putting them really heavily behind. So I was very surprised that they did announce the 4th.
Yeah, I kind of wish they went for the like middle of the month. I feel like an extra week would be really helpful at this point.
Also, like I got the calendar out, so assuming that we get a 3-month league, the timing's also kind of weird because that means that the next big league would start at the start of November, and normally you want your big thing to be like December, like that's the big time. So to have something start at the start of November seems like a really weird timing. So if they'd pushed for a late August release, then it would mean the next patch would have lined up perfectly for December. So it seems weird that they decided to ship for the start, but I don't know.
Bro, are you saying
think
they
they're
can't
gonna do
extend a league?
I mean, they've shown that they can, but it's one of those things of It would have made sense to me if it was like they had to get it by the 4th so they could make their next target. It just seems weird to like rush out a release, which then sets you up for either filler content or an extended league. Like that just seems weird to me. Like why is there another game? Was there like is there something that means they have to ship by the 4th? Like it just seems a weird deadline.
I think so. I think they definitely they were probably forced by somebody. I mean, if they like already lost so much money with like the MTX flop, and obviously fixing that probably took a lot of time, and then this happens too. I think they're pressured into something. Like I can't imagine anything else. And I also think that the next league will be either 4 months or there will be some sort of filler, because there's no way they're gonna release a league in November. That just makes no sense. Like end of December is when you want your stuff to happen, like, and then it's gonna be 2 months into the league. Like, hey, 90% of our player base quit already. I don't know.
I don't know, but so to go back to the threshold duels really quickly, so I think I'm in the minority, and it seems weird, but I think the new Splatter Arrow duel is stupid. I don't see the point of it, and everyone's like, "But Tarke, it's amazing." Go on.
Actually,
Actually,
it is the best AoE in the game. It is so good that you shoot around corners, okay? The arrows instantly line up. It's a rectangle of AoE now. So like regular split arrow, it's a cone.
Rectangle.
So like the cone, right? Anything to the left and right of you doesn't get hit, and then enemies farther away, since the arrows get farther apart, there's a lot of like missing hits. But this is like, it literally goes off screen. I was looking at it in like widescreen, and I was like, this would go off the screen in widescreen. It's like two and a half screens, right? And it's 150 units traveled straight instead of like hypotenusy, like diagonal. Yeah. So it's even farther across this rectangle. It's absolutely insane.
That's if you use 2 joules, and
you don't need 2 joules. You don't need 2 joules.
To get the really like thick coverage, you need 2.
Mm-hmm.
For one, like, because this is my thing with normal Splitter, because I played a lot of normal Splitter and like tornado shots. So people are like, "Oh, Tarke, what do you think?" I was like, normal Splitter already hit most of the screen anyway. Granted, if there are mobs directly in front of you, then the new one's better, right? Because if there's mobs directly in front of you on either side, great. If you're like 5 foot back, the old Splitter would have hit it anyway. It's only
There's this YouTube video.
Literally next to you.
I posted a YouTube video. If you can, bring it up in the middle. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who haven't seen this.
Yeah, I can do that. Hang on, give me a second.
It is going to be, for the investment and early on, it is going to be, if ZiggyD doesn't nerf it. ZiggyD, please be dealing with...
It's not making it to live, man.
It's going to make it alive. I swear to God.
It's not.
It is the best AoE in the entire game. It's a projectile.
It's not gonna happen.
It's like 1.5 screens wide and 2.5 screens long of AoEs. It's like instantly. You can use slower projectile. Oh, I tested with slower projectile. You don't lose the 150 units. It's still 150 units, and so you get no loss to like the coverage, and you get the more multiplier.
You're dreaming. It's not happening. I know. It's like they designed what's the most efficient AoE clear we could possibly design. And it's like the only way it could be more efficient if it wasn't a projectile. If it was just like a straight up AoE.
Where's the video?
I posted it in chat. Here, let me post it again in chat. Right there.
Okay.
They might as well just put, because they haven't added a second line to it. They might as well just add chain to it and be done with it.
I mean,
like projectile chain.
Just the feel of it, I think, is, well, I haven't actually tried it, but like, the thing that always pissed me off about Split Arrow is that it felt really inconsistent. I feel like this would feel a lot more consistent. But
it looks so dumb though, right?
It looks really stupid, and yet the fact that you can go like around corners with it and stuff, like I don't know.
It's not gonna go to live just because of how dumb it looks, let alone the AoE.
So good though. Oh man,
but like
so
that's the thing. It's so abusable because there's so many fights in PoE. Like there's specific fights that have been fixed over like some time, but like especially now that you're checking out widescreen, like there's so many things that you can off screen without actually triggering the guy, right? So there's specific bug fixes that they've addressed in the past, like for instance with Brutus. With Brutus, you could like put him into a certain spot where he would be getting damaged, but he wouldn't see you, therefore he wouldn't attack you. And you can still do the same thing with Dominus, for instance, where he ascends, you just stand behind the pillar, he has his normal life pool, and you're just attacking him with an AoE ability, and he never approaches you. So, like, this is something incredibly abusable, because if you're not in the line of sight of the majority of the mobs in the game, they will not attack you, even if you're dealing damage to them.
But you can do that anyway with Tornado Shot, though.
Wow, not this efficiently.
The issue is
you can do it definitely, but
anything that's not parallel, mobs farther away won't get hit because the arrows split out wider as you go farther. This is like just straight rectangle AoE. Pierce will pierce, what is it, 7 targets at max level?
If you
so you actually get the you actually get like the full like rectangle AoE coverage. Shoots like doesn't like shoot around corners, but it's like if there's a rock like at your diagonals, like Splitter will hit that, but now it just goes like directly up, so it'll hit things behind the rock, and it's just like
it looks
device,
good, but
pseudo clear.
I don't know if it's because I've played a lot of Chain Fork recently, and I think that people will I think there'll be like a little bit of a resurgence when it comes to like hybrid builds. Like I know that Bob's been messing around with on his builds now. He no longer uses the Pierce gem. He just gets like the 2 or 3 Pierce on the tree, and that's it. Like I think that while it's clearly really good, you could kind of already do this. Like anyone who's played Chain Fork Tornado Shot, like you shot once, you cleared half of Strand, because just the way it just does everything
the thing is,
for you.
like, you can do the same thing with this, and it'll be more efficient because you're hitting more targets with those initial arrows, right? So if you fan out and some of your arrows, your edge arrows, miss the pack, then they're not going to chain and fork to anything. But if you're doing this rectangle, nearly all the arrows hit, you're going to be chaining and forking more projectiles. So overall, your damage goes up.
Yeah.
Also, the arrows spawn instantly. Like the ones to your left and right, they spawn instantly. It's not like you're shooting a projectile that explodes into more. It's like, bam, this is the AoE. It's like defined and it's always there. So it's. I mean, are you seeing what's happening on the screen at the end of this video?
Stupid,
like,
if anything. Like,
it's diagonal. Yeah. It's diagonal coverage. So it's like the diagonal of the screen going this way. It's crazy wide. Are you seeing that?
Like, I get it, and also, but like, just one thing, because it does have some costs, and it might just be that I have the preference of I like this thing called life, but you're sacrificing about 14% life and about like 40 to 60% damage. So there is some drawback, but yeah, no, like it's clearly good.
Name me an ability that you wouldn't use a threshold jewel on that has the possibility of using it. Like if there's threshold jewels, you use them. Come on, it's too good. So you can say that about like so many abilities now, because yeah.
This is gonna be pretty crazy.
Has a threshold jewel.
Especially like the layout of the maps. I think my
main issue is I just don't like threshold jewels. I think that's just my issue.
Glacial Hammer. I love this. Chat is like Glacial Hammer. I love this. Fucking everybody's like, fucking Glacial Hammer. I can't play it. It's terrible. What an awful skill. You shouldn't play it. GGG, please fix. When it comes to an example, Glacial Hammer, guys. Yes. Glacial Hammer, the ability that I always play and use. Totally probable. Let me bring it up as an example. Yes. Fucking hell. Come on. You can't do that.
There's also, the new Burning Arrow jewel is terrible now. Like, that went from being such an amazing jewel to such a dogshit jewel. Feels bad, man.
Oh, God. I'm going to get into an argument with chat. Guys saying Grand Slam. Grand Slam's so good with the freaking jewel.
The extra AoE on it is good, yeah.
It's so nice. Yeah. What the hell? I don't
know. What else? Oh, the Fire Trap jewel. So, I'm wrong. Let's just say I'm wrong. But if we go to the Fire Trap, what do you guys think of that?
I don't understand how it works. Have you guys tried it out?
I couldn't find one. It wasn't on the vendor. They probably dropped, but do we know if it uses your extra charge or do you just get like a free trap? Because that's huge.
That's one thing. Huge. And then the other thing is, does it throw the trap like cluster trap, or does it throw it like you just throw 2 traps on top of it? Yeah.
So in case you don't know chat, so we should probably say what it does. So it gives, when you throw a fire trap, it says you just like throw another one. But I haven't seen anyone use it in action, so I don't know how it works exactly. I don't know if anyone's like messed around with it in chat or anything.
Lito's saying Pox said it works like multi-trap, so I guess
just
it
like
throws it.
Or behind or something. Yeah.
That's okay, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have the downside of multi-trap, which is the humongous multiplier. So, and you can have 3 of them, and like really they should be overlapping anyway, because
Yeah.
Fire Trap AoE is pretty good now with the
Especially
Radius
if you do it
edition.
with, like Sab or something.
Yeah,
It won't
I can
work
see
like
that being.
this, but imagine how busted it would be if it did an extra one for Cluster Trap as well, for, like each one. Like, you just
Yeah, that's
throw
what I'm
20.
thinking. Like, it just throws like in front of you
Yeah.
by default with the gem, and then you use Cluster Trap, so it's just like 3 in front of you, so everything in front of you dies, and then it's like a big AoE at the end. I don't know, I'd like it. But like then again, I never really liked Cluster Trap with Fire Trap because it's so inconsistent. Like sometimes you throw it and it's like a huge AoE. Sometimes you throw it, it's like a tiny AoE because they just land right next to each other. It's like, I don't know if this is even doing anything for me. But it might work pretty okay.
I was a little disappointed that we didn't actually see any trap reworks. I was kind of hoping that we would, and when they did the reworked Scion, I was kind of hoping that maybe, since they changed, they lost the trap cooldown recovery, I thought, oh, maybe that means they're going to mess with cooldowns in some way. But the fact they haven't touched it at all is a little bit sad, because it is
trap cooldown.
So the old Saboteur on Scion used to like give you some trap cooldown stuff, and then the new one doesn't give you that, and that was like the only good thing about it. So it seemed weird. So I thought, oh, maybe that means they might mess with traps in some way, but they haven't yet. They might still do it. Like it's, we had the charge thing come out of nowhere. They might say, oh, one quick note, traps now are orbital nukes or something. But
I don't know. I don't know if GGG necessarily wants a situation where like you've got too much trap cooldown. I don't think they want a situation where you can just use consistently a single trap to like play a trapper. I think they want you to rotate different abilities. And like to kind of fix that for the people that do want to use something like a fire trap or a lightning trap that has less cooldown than the like trap support gem has. They like added the cooldown recovery gem, and you can still get cooldown recovery on jewels, I'm pretty sure, so you can like build around that. But I don't think they want a situation where you're just like just playing a glacial cascade trap build, and that's like that's your single target and your AoE and everything, because then you're just playing as it loses the uniqueness of actual traps, I think.
Yeah, that's what I like about traps, is having this like armament of multiple things that you throw out. And playing an ice trapper and having like 3 different ice skills is like really cool. And if you take that away, you just kind of like might as well play mines at that point.
I mean, you've played a lot of lightning trap, right? Is like, do you think the current state of traps is alright? Are you happy with it? Would you change anything, or?
It really depends on how exactly like poison, bleed, and like ignites end up. I think traps are just due to the nature of the scaling. I think they're very dependent on status ailments, and they're very dependent on like the degen effects. And so, as of right now, in my opinion, with the current MOM in 2.6, traps are very nice. They still have a very unique feel to them, and most traps play really well. I mean, especially if you focus on multiple traps at the same time, right? Not just like a single ability. But even then, like you can do stuff like lightning trap. And, as much as Pox complains, because like Pox really complains about Fire Trap, but in my opinion, Fire Trap isn't that bad. It's just nothing like it used to be. That's kind of the problem. It's kind of the same issue like it is with Earthquake, where people are like, I'm not going to play Earthquake because it's fucking terrible now. It's like top 3 melee ability in the game, but everybody thinks it's totally terrible. So, yeah, we kind of have to wait. But if the degen effects end up being sort of normalized, and the thing is also the degen effects are always normalized for like self-casting, where you've got a lot less scaling, and trapping enables you that much scaling. It should be pretty powerful because you don't really balance around the degen effects. You don't balance them around traps. You balance them around everything else, and so traps are that extra on top of thing. Yeah.
So, does anyone want to mention any other like jewels or uniques where you start to talk about the bleed thing? Okay. So they introduced this rather interesting new keystone called Crimson Dance, if you don't know chat. So now it's in the bottom of Duelist. You can bleed up to 8 times. Powerful. You have 50% less bleed damage, and bleed does no extra damage while moving. Hey?
Can someone in chat post the Jade Disco and Chili Charleston?
Oh, the Chili Charleston, I love that one. That was so good.
Chili Charleston, I haven't seen that
Just so
one. I've
everyone
seen
can
Jade
see like
Disco.
the good memes.
It was good. My bleed review video was just like 80% reading memes on Reddit. It was wonderful. I
Like
loved it.
Ember Party, I think it was the last one.
That was-
Jade Disco, Chili Charleston, Ember Party.
God, I haven't seen the last two. Is it? Listen, I've seen a lot of people complain about this. You guys, I guess people are unhappy with it. Like, you guys gotta explain this to me, because I'm not that unhappy with it. Like, what?
I've never played a bleed build, and I don't know anything about like bleeds, so you guys take this one away.
I think where a lot of the hang on, I've got something to summarize this. I think where a lot of the outrage came from was from the fact that they said that we're working on this really cool new bleed thing, and so there was this anticipation. And there's always the problem that when you say that we're working on this cool thing, people's imaginations go wild. And then they just came up with a pretty boring like mini poison effect, and then Reddit went cray. So yeah, I don't know. What do you reckon?
mean, that's kind of my thoughts too. Is it solves a problem of bleed. What do you do with bleed in attack speed builds that scale up or skills that have multiple hits? Bleed becomes pretty useless. So you take this Keystone and that solves that problem to an extent. So it achieves the desired result. So I'm okay with that. But there was so many cool ideas thrown around of what they could do with this Keystone.
Before Chili Charleston is like the best thing ever.
Pretty good.
Oh my God.
Just the name of it is so good.
Chili Charleston. That's really good. So sorry,
Alright.
Ziggy.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't keep
No,
that.
it's pretty good. I do like these memes. It's just like, let's turn bleeds into Emberwake Ignites. Let's turn bleeds into freeze. I mean, they might as well give us turn bleed into all the other mechanics at this point.
I don't know. To me, like the thing is, I feel like that really is the essence of utilizing, like what the skill tree in PoE does, where it's this thing that allows you to do anything with anything, and nodes like this kind of hold really true to that because of like the way they're positioned. I don't know if necessarily, because it seems like they put it like next to Iron Grip, like bottom left, which is still sort of the area that you might reach with some poison builds because of the what's that one node? Like dirty techniques.
Yeah, it's
what
like
it is.
not that far from it. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I would like put it even maybe a little bit further left, but that sort of limits it to mostly axes rather than now where it's like swords and axes that you can play around with. And maybe they also want them on daggers because you're supposed to attack fast.
Also, they want it somewhat near perfect agony as well. Like if you push it too far
Yeah.
left, then it kills that. So
Yeah, for swords, I would imagine. But like, I don't know, perfect agony is kind of, it's hard to think about right now.
it's even better
It's
than
like,
your assassin
you look at it,
changes, but we'll get to that.
yeah, but I don't know. To me, the idea of it isn't that infuriating, because that's what you're supposed to do with the skill tree. That you're supposed to play anything that you want with anything, and mechanically, yeah, I think that's kind of cool. So I don't know. I definitely understand people's disappointment where they go, you know, we were expecting this cool thing and we get this. But if there would be a cool thing on top of this, I wouldn't really be that disappointed with either this or the Chili Charleston, you know?
I think the main issue with it is it's kind of, when you think about the bleed mechanic in the current like live state, it's kind of like, okay, it doesn't stack, so I want like the biggest hit possible to get the biggest possible bleed. Is there some way I could push the mob around or whatever? Not that people are doing these crazy like big hit, heavy strike knockback builds, but like that's kind of like the thought process. And then with the new version, there's no real benefit for just big hits, because it's just like you want to stack up quickly. So it kind of kills that like big singular hit idea. And then the whole movement thing is gone. So it's like it's lost anything slightly interesting about bleed. So it's just kind of like.
Well,
it does
nobody
damage
forces you to take it. Like you can still
now.
play
Well, it
like
doesn't do any fucking damage without it though. It doesn't do any damage with it either. Like that's the other thing. Like you take this
I don't know.
node, you still don't do damage.
They did say they will rebalance it. And as a matter of fact, I did play Bleed Earthquake in the beta, and Bleed was okay with Earthquake. So like you still retain that big hit. It's just some people don't like that, you know. Most people rather enjoy builds that have really fast attack speed, you know, even if you're doing like Sunder. And especially now, the thing that happened with Bleeds that I don't think really anybody talks about, or in general with degen effects, is that you no longer need a duration ability to scale your like bleeds and poisons.
You can put rapid decay on anything now, can't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Where in the past you needed to use like Earthquake, right? But if you put Rapid Decay on Sunder, it wouldn't work. And now you can use it on anything with anything. And that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Because it allows you so many more abilities that you can play with this now. It's not just limited to those big hits. You can play, you know, small hits, faster attacking builds, and you won't have any problem scaling that. It won't be nearly as punishing. And so this kind of works into it, I think, and yeah, it does okay. Free game, no bitching. sorry.
Free game, no bitching.
Dude, it's funny to me how like I went from this like super fucking GGG clear speed meta, this fucking everything sucks, like super grumpy, to like I feel like I'm constantly defending GGG, you know? Well, yeah, I am kind of the voice of reason when everybody's freaking out. I don't know.
Some things are pretty funny.
It's
like,
okay, Raiz. We've worked out you're part of the elite QA team of well-known players that no one knows about. You and Noogie, two people happy
I am
about
a
the
massive
changes.
sellout, so as long as you've got that guap, you know, I'll say whatever you want me to, right?
Okay. Well, since it seems that no one's got anything that interesting to say about Bleed, so to move on to the ascendancy changes then.
Actually, real quick, just to go off of that,
Okay.
that's the reason why people think that nobody, like, they don't actually play the game, because I have 15k hours in the game. Therefore, I am actually the entirety of the Q&A. I'm the 15 people that are supposed to be doing it, right? So, yeah, there you go.
that close eye is so funny because it's like Chris saying, "I would expect nothing less," and then later down the guy's like, "Hey Reddit, can you guys like do my job for me and give me like the builds that are hurt or health by this?" And like, if you take a step back, you're like, okay, like even if you played for like 10k hours, there's still builds that you don't know about, right? That you don't play and stuff like that. And same with like the Tinker Skin thing, where everyone's like, but Tinker Skin has frenzy charge. Like obviously, you know, it has artwork and everything. So this was made like months ago, and then like it's very obvious to see that the ailment stuff was like more recent. So it's like people make mistakes. It's okay, but it's funny to laugh at that stuff.
One
because
thing
it makes no sense.
I did find funny that someone linked to me was how long does it take to fix a new charge system? 1,000 hours. I wouldn't accept any less. And I was like, that was mildly amusing. I giggled at that. A slight chuckle. But okay, so to go on to the ascendancy stuff then. So if we start with assassin, so they've changed. It's no longer giving you base 0.5 crit per power charge. It's now 2% just at max power charges. And they've changed the 100% bleed and poison damage to 30% more.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Stop, it's already dead.
Yeah. Like how necessary do we think that these changes were?
I didn't play poison that much.
It's about making assassin not the only choice, right?
I think it's
ultimately what the change is. Yeah. So now you can optionally go assassin and have a bit stronger bleeds and poisons. Like, look, we just have to accept the new power level of bleed and poison.
You can
and
go
just say, well, at least now there's
bleed and
diversity
poison
within
than
that.
assassin.
Come on, fuck, I'm defending them again. God damn it. Okay,
There's
so
diversity within that.
we can't have like the full picture yet. This can't be like the extent of the changes that we're doing with this, right? Right? Like they must be changing something. These
I think
changes
you're right,
must be
Raiz,
based.
but probably not before launch. Like, I don't reckon there's going to be that many more changes before launch.
Do you think they're actually going to be like, here's these assassin changes that make completely no sense, That's it. Like, I don't know. See you in like 3 months when we actually do put in the things that we want to put into the game. I don't know.
Maybe this is a lot less people playing Ailments League, and we play other builds for a while.
The fact. Guys, huge dot changes. They're now completely unplayable because we are not putting in half of the changes that we were planning to. See you next year.
Okay, so it's possible that they've got a lot of this stuff done internally because they use a separate internal build, which is often about a week ahead of the serious mode for a sec. The internal build is usually about a week ahead of the current beta one, or the alpha usually is what it's compared to, if they're actively updating that. So I mean, it's possible that they have a bunch of changes that they're going to roll out in the next few days or something, but it is the weekend now, and on Monday it will be the 31st, and then we have 3 days until the launch. Is the beta going to be up until then? They may release this stuff, but we may not have a chance to test it, is what I'm thinking.
I mean, I'm pretty sure of that. Come on. Like, come on. That would be so... And also, I don't think they care it's weekend. I think, literally, as we're speaking, Chris is shooting up Red Bull directly into his veins.
That is true. He was awake at 3 a.m. yesterday to post a response post. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure
they are going ham right now.
Yeah,
yeah,
they're really freaking.
Good on them though. They're working so freaking hard right now. I was talking about Rio earlier, and
I'll give them
they're going crazy. Yeah,
that's the thing with GGG. You can always tell whenever they're becoming like really bad when it comes to communicating with the community, and they're not like releasing info, and they're kind of being very poor about that, which they were, like, I would say over the course of the last month until recently. That's when shit is going down. That's when they're like working the hardest, when they're just like in this little box cutting off the rest of the world, and they're just fucking going at it. So it's a good and a bad thing, but it gets the shit done, I think, at the end of the day.
So, since you guys think that this isn't, like, we're not seeing the full picture, like, what changes would you expect to see so we'd be like, okay, that makes sense now?
Flash
I'm like, at this point, I'm just thinking that they've nerfed down all these, like, things that were really egregious. They do barrage, they bring that back down, and then they can just bring the whole thing up. That's the thing that would make sense to me at this point, right? It's like that they've nerfed all these real, like, outlier things, so they finish off that particular process by correcting barrage, and then they can bring all of the ailment stuff back up, and then life is good. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. I don't know. What do you guys think? What else could they do? Like, they have to bring up the baseline at this point because they brought everything else down.
I'm still waiting for barrage to get hit. Like, I'm waiting for barrage to get nerfed.
Oh man, I was thinking about that earlier when we were talking about the split arrow. Imagine that instead of split arrow, it would be barrage. So not only would it like shoot like this, it would like also these arrows would just hit everything.
So good.
I like thinking of second lines for the split arrow duel because it's only got one currently. And that's another good one. Also fires several other projectiles after the first one in rapid succession. So it becomes split barrage.
Yes. All right, everyone stop talking about split arrow. I want to see this on Friday. I want it to be like unchanged.
It's not gonna be released.
I like the idea of the second line being something incredibly counterintuitive, like your arrows fire backwards or something, so that you have to have this really awkward play style to use it. So you've got to like turn your character, shoot backwards, or forwards.
Maybe an issue for Xbox players, but not PC. Oh, enthusiasts.
Oh, imagine if that was an Xbox only gem. That'd be good as well. I like that.
Have you guys seen any of the like Xbox coverage, or are you planning to actually check it out?
I haven't got an Xbox. I've got a PlayStation. But I was watching a dude stream the Xbox. It looked terrible, like pressing A to pick up items. Ooh. Like he would kill a pack and then just be like
I mean, I played it.
How did you feel
I played
about
an earlier build of it, and it's been improved since then, and it was pretty good. Honestly, it's pretty good. Like, I'm pretty impressed how well they managed to port what could be a really janky affair over. It's not going to be anywhere near as smooth or as fast as doing a lot of that stuff on PC. I mean, you can't, like, while racing, while killing mobs, open your inventory and Tetris around while you're killing mobs. You can't do that, obviously.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm hoping. I'm hoping that it's going to be fucking awful, and then nobody's going to play it, and then I can stream it, and then they're still releasing leagues and races, right? So that maybe I'm actually going to manage to win a race that way. Because nobody else is going to do it. Yeah. World first. 1 out of 1. Yes!
I mean, if you go over there with your racing experience and compete against a bunch of people that are just starting to play the game, you're probably going to win some races, guys, without that happening.
Okay,
so.
Raiz,
have you seen my track record?
I'm going to set the scene for you for, like, the easiest, like, title of your life. Okay. Xbox launches, new leagues comes out, Raiz. Standard hardcore SSF. Easy, only person on the ladder.
Yeah, that's got a
Yeah.
point.
Probably.
Yeah. I could do that.
As
Okay,
far as-
now imagine
Go
if
ahead.
they were to do like some sort of like that they did with the Malachi race where they were giving away a laptop. Imagine if they would actually do that for like both Xbox and the live servers.
Wow.
So then like a proper investment would be to actually buy an Xbox and attempt to win the laptop, because like winning the laptop on PC. Like,
buy,
we've got the fastest group.
You buy this like £500 piece of equipment to maybe win like a £700 piece of equipment. Seems good.
I mean, I don't know. It's higher probability. Like we've got. I mean, it's pretty much unarguable at this point that we've got like the fastest leveling group. But I don't know. Winning a laptop like that is still pretty. Like being first is still pretty freaking difficult.
Yeah.
When are you going to, like,
So,
split
you know.
up amongst us in terms of your
They'll
investment?
post it to each other. You get Mondays and Tuesdays. You get Wednesdays and Thursdays. Yeah.
I mean, it would work. Hey,
Well, I mean,
Weasel is very happy with his laptop, so I don't know.
All jokes aside, I mean, everyone I think wants Xbox to actually do well, right? Because like they need a lot of revenue. You
Yeah,
want them to get as
anything to
much
boost the
revenue as
playbase
possible
is
to
good.
help us
Oh,
out
yeah.
No,
with like more
fuck
content.
everybody
So
else.
you don't want Xbox to fail, all right? You do not want Xbox to fail.
I want more people enjoying PoE in the end, you know, because I think that's the true way to world peace. If everyone's playing PoE and grinding out levels and gear, then there'll be no more wars. So
Yeah.
I'm all for it, man. Bring it to as many people as possible. Port it to freaking mobile.
The more people playing PoE, the more people potentially clicking on my shit posts. So I'm happy. You know.
Exactly. Reddit karma goes up for everybody this way.
I mean, balance-wise, Xbox always will be very different, I think, from the core game. Like, imagine if we ever get to a point where Xbox will be the better game, like, because they just can't fix some like power creep issues and all that sort of stuff on the live servers, because you know you can't really fix everything with like balance changes. You can't keep up, and just everybody just has to move on to Xbox if you want to keep playing the same game it is now.
Along those lines, Rise, I'm actually pretty interested to see how the economy and trading pans out in Xbox, because they're going to be using that more restricted China-style trading system, I think, what they're using in their version, or something similar to it. I don't think it's implemented yet in the beta, but I've always been curious to see what PoE would have been like if they had never gone with the trade API. And I had a long conversation with Chris about this too, and he said that they were really curious about what it would be like too, but they can never go back. Like, they can never take that away now that it exists for PC. So with console from the outset being like that, with no trade API and no like really efficient trade website thing going on, basically auction house that we have now, I don't know. It'd be really interesting to see if like the economy and trading and gearing your characters and stuff ends up being a lot more satisfying on the Xbox version, and then maybe we'll end up swapping because it's a lot more fun. I don't know.
Mhm. I mean, SSF, by the
I'm very
way,
curious.
it does feel rewarding. But is there? Because I don't really. Because you're talking about like the Chinese version. Is there information about this stuff? Because I really don't know how it looks like over there.
I'll ask
Yeah.
around. Don't worry.
It's difficult to describe, but So they have the in-game trade system. We saw some pictures and stuff posted and some explanations from a Chinese player back when they were running their beta, and it is like a much more kind of looking through garage sales kind of deal, I guess. Not quite the same as like going into shops on the forums like we used to.
Wait, but like an in-game shop?
It's an in-game trade system. So there's like a menu or something you go to, and you can put in like searches for certain things, but not to the extent that we can search for. I'm looking for items with between this and this life and this resistances and so on. Like you can't quite get it down to that level of detail that we can to find the exact perfect item. So you're looking for good items and trying to find those kind of like gems and stuff like that. So there's kind of a bit more of the discovery to it, it seems.
Oh, wow, okay. So kind of like an auction house, except without all the information then.
The guy did say in his post that he'd much rather have our system that we have now.
Yeah, but you always want what you can't have, right? So
and players always want it to be easier, right?
Yeah.
We always want the system that can get us the exact item that we want. But maybe the game is more enjoyable without that. I don't know. That's what I'm curious to see how it pans out, whether it's more fun.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. Yeah. But there's no statement for Xbox, I guess it's just there's nothing right now for the beta. Can people even trade or?
I think you can. There was a guy saying he couldn't trade, but I think they were just under level 25 and they had that restriction where you can't trade. Mm-hmm. The anti-botting measures. Yeah. So I don't know if that was actually legit. I think the system's not implemented, but last I heard they were going with the system similar to the China Realm one, which makes most sense for console. I mean, you can't have your browsers with PoE trade and shit.
That's always something funny whenever I see any feedback on Reddit about like the Xbox beta, and everybody's like, yeah, fucking Xbox this and that, and everybody's mad, and it's like a one-sentence feedback. I'm like, guys, come on, show some respect. This guy took like the entire day to type this out. Like,
the controller.
He's just like going letter by letter. I just killed Brutus, and I think this could be very useful for you.
I'm having trouble on Mr. Evil. I use all my flasks, but I end up getting killed.
They're like trying to shorten every word.
Pretty good. So to backtrack a little bit, charge changes. What are the thoughts on that? That's another little feels bad man from Reddit.
Charge changes. Yeah. Tarke, you can't talk about that.
Oh, sorry. All right, never mind. Next topic. So should GGG next?
It's kind of interesting how that was just like one sentence down the end of their like.
Yeah, another note. That was my favorite thing. One quick thing.
Such an impactful change. Like it has so many like reaching implications.
It doesn't. What?
What reaching?
No,
it's so many
here we go.
Ascendancies and stuff built around these charges and how they function.
I'm actually kind of with Raiz on this one.
Like what? Frenzy charges?
Listen. Mostly. Go on.
Just real quick, I had like a 2-hour conversation about this yesterday, and nobody could give me an example of like the best example that somebody gave was a freeze pulse raider. Okay, at which point you're literally making a cosmetic decision. Like you just want to play raider. There's so many other things that you can do that would just do way better, but you're making the decision to play raider because you just like the ranger look or something. Like, I can't really... It was so long where people would be like, Hegemony's era is destroyed now. What fucking Hegemony's era build picks up power charges? Like, none of that ever happens. And if you're not picking up power charges, it's like... You've got 4 power charges, or you don't really, because you don't get the charge anymore, right? Like, maybe you do, but currently in the beta you don't. So you've got 4 power charges with the one from Hegemony's era, and that's a 8% crit staff, and now you're getting 80% less crit off of that. So that's like 6% less crit on your build that requires like 6 notes to put you at 50% crit chance, with a crit gem, and then you use a diamond flask on top of it. Like, man, it's really not that impactful. Like it's
I
really
think
not.
I think there's just a misconception where people are mad because one, like obviously anytime your build does less damage, you're gonna be pissed, right? Like why? I didn't have that good of a build to start with. And then second of all, people will go on Reddit, and if you don't like really look at the numbers, you hear people on Reddit being like, it's 40% less crit per power charge, but like just use numbers for a second. Let's say that you have 50% crit and you're using a gem that has a base of 6% crit. Is that like pretty average for skills? Before, if you had 6 power charges at 50% increased crit per power charge, you're at 68% crit, and then you use a diamond flash, which they reverted the change to that, right? So use a diamond flash, your chance to not crit is 10%. Okay, now with this nerf, if you have the same 50% crit, you have 6 power charges with only 30% increased. You're now, after hitting your Diamond Flash, you're at 15% not crit. So you have 5% less. You're basically going from 90% crit to 85% crit with this nerf. It doesn't actually matter with the power charges. So like one of the big things is like people, it does feel less intuitive because like now people see like spell damage with the power charge and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to use this. Like if you're inexperienced, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to use this on like my other builds that aren't spells. And like with the attack damage, like new players will look at that and they'll be like, okay, frenzy is for attacks, I might not want it on my spellcaster. And that's kind of like weird, but the numbers itself of reducing your damage and stuff isn't like that big a deal.
Like the thing is, I would even take this further because you were talking about like having 6 power charges and stuff. Like, who the fuck picks up power charges on the skill tree on any build, right? Like, unless you're playing like some sort of void battery build or something, you never really pick up power charges because it's not really efficient. You're taking a situational, non-passive node on the skill tree that is 5% more efficient than the worst nodes you can pick up on the skill tree, which are 20%. Because if you want a power charge, then you have to go through duration. So that makes it a 25% per node efficiency. And then if you pick up just random nodes on the skill tree, the worst case you can get is 20%. That's 5% less.
You've already taken those though, right? Like in any build, let's just take like the previous Arrow CI. You've already taken those. Doomcast, Annihilation. Yeah. What's the one on the Witch? That's Annihilation, right? Annihilation, Assassination, Doomcast. You've already taken those because they're so easy to get to. So to get more crit, which is like so easy since you don't need more ES, you would just take the power charges anyways. It's like you can't like compare like 15% crit per node when you've already taken the other things, right? Because you already taken those. You can't get those anymore. You're not going to go to like top left or like True Strike or whatever at the bottom. So it's not like a fair comparison. I think you'd still take power charges, at least in softcore, guys.
Another thing is like, I think people just want to have like the 90% crit chance at all times. Like you just always want to crit, and I don't think that's what GGG wants. Like they've made it clear, even in the clarification post, that it's too much. It's too easily acquirable. I mean, I'm playing a cast on crit build right now, a cast on crit build with 3 different cast on crit abilities, the most dependent you can be on critical strikes, and it's very strong, and I have 8 passive points in my skill tree that are crit, and 3 of those have multiplier on them too. So like, I don't know, man. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. It's really not that impactful. I can understand, like, somebody says it kills Victarious Charity Spectres. It's about 40% less damage. I can totally understand in the case of Spectres, right? Because then you're like, there's not really other ways of scaling your damage otherwise, right? But like for most of these things in the beta, you're getting through support gems something else that covers for it, right? And like the big problem I also think with charges was that it was mandatory. It was like fucking reduced mana with aura nodes. If you were playing any build in the entire game ever, you had to be efficient. You had to have a way to get frenzy or power charges. That's it.
Well, there's more of that now, though, to be fair. Like, now...
Why?
Well, power charges give more spell damage, so more casters want power charges than before, because crit spell casters will still want them because they give a crit. Non-crit spellcasters will now want them because they give more damage and better uptime on an early overload. You're still going to want frenzy charges because They're good for attack builds. They give you attack speed and cast speed, which is movement speed. Like, you still want them.
Yeah. You still want frenzy charges, but they're less efficient. And then think about the way, because generating charges needs to be taken into account still. Think about the way you generate charges, power charges, on the majority of builds. You do it by critting. You generate charges from critting, and therefore it's not necessarily that you will always have to pick them up on non-crit caster builds, because there won't be a very efficient way of generating those charges because you're not critting. And that's how the majority of builds generate their charges.
This is the issue, though, because if Breach wasn't staying into the core game, so when they added Breach, I was really worried about the Dream Jewels, because when they made those, I was like, these are a really powerful way of getting charges. And now it's one of those things where every spellcaster should use one of those jewels, because it's just damage. It's just like 12% more damage for 2 points. Yeah. Every build should use that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like I'm not like crazy like against these changes or anything, but it's one of those things of I don't think it solves the problem of like, oh, these charges are too mandatory. They're still mandatory. You still want them. Attack and cast speed is movement speed, because everything uses shield charge. So every shield charge build will still want frenzies. If you can fit Blood Rage into your build, you'll still fit Blood Rage into your build, so you clear faster. And then now non-crit builds want power charges if they're a spellcaster, which proves they didn't. And I don't understand why non-crit builds wanted power. Like, who was the people complaining my non-crit build doesn't get use out of power charges? And now endurance charges just feel even shittier in comparison to power charges.
That's like arguing that on every build the power charges would have been useful before, and you had to get them because you could use like Victaria's Acuity or something, and then your power charges would have a use.
Do you disagree though that now if you're a spellcaster you'll be like, do I want to get this like 12-16% more damage? Yeah, probably. You're going to try and come up with a way of generating them.
I disagree with that. First of all, I disagree with that because you've got stuff like Arcane Surge, so if you're a caster, most likely you have access to something like Flame Dash, which is an easy link, and you gain that sort of damage that you lost through not having the damage on your frenzy charges anymore. You gain that through other sources. Yeah. So in terms of a nerf, I can understand that for some specific builds, this is a nerf for sure. And in general, I mean, it's lowering power. But people are like completely disregarding the other things, like Arcane Surge, for instance, that we're getting, that is super accessible. And they're just focusing on just the charges, again, disregarding everything else. And so I do stand by what I said before, that sure, 12% more spell damage makes a difference, but generating those charges is still a big deal. And when it comes to actually getting power charges on your skill tree, we're looking at 2% efficiency. So you've got the 3 initial charges, which is 12%, and then otherwise it's basically 2% more spell damage on the skill tree from a single node, which is not that efficient because, again, power charges are situational, right? On a non-crit build. On a crit build, they're not situational. You'll basically always have them. But on a non-crit build, they are situational, and you won't always have them.
Do people really even care about this aspect of power and frenzy charges? I feel like the main thing that people are worried about is more just that they now don't make sense with a lot of items or ascendancies. And I feel like that stuff is obviously going to be fixed, right? Even if it doesn't make much sense now. And with the Trapper chest, it's kind of a little bit funny, but like the idea of...
I'm mostly worried about when it comes to like items more than anything. I think that I'm not against the change. I just think the argument that now that charges are less mandatory is just... I just don't agree with that as a point, but yeah.
Okay,
like, I don't think it really...
I disagree with the Trapper chest argument too.
Why is that? Because you can use it with attacks, or?
No, because can you name me especially in like the current state of the game where like bleed and degen stuff isn't really a thing, can you name me a non-crit Trapper build? That's the thing. All Trapper builds are crit. And therefore, this chest piece still makes sense because you get the spell damage that you would be missing from the frenzy charges, from that one node that 100% of Trapper builds pick up, which is Blast Cascade.
Why would you equip the chest anyway? Because you don't need the frenzy charges.
You do need the frenzy charges. You said before, right? It's mandatory to have frenzy charges because you need it for shield charging and shit. No? You said it yourself.
Yeah, but okay, so in the case of, because you can take the node on the tree, you could take the node on the tree to get the frenzy charges, so you don't need to use the chest for that. But Fire Trap generally doesn't go crit. Quite a lot of trappers kind of level as non-crit. And then the idea of oh, we've made this new chest piece because everything is a crit build, so it gives you power if it gave power charges, I'd be yeah, sure, whatever, but it gives you fucking frenzy charges, and it's just
don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a great item. I'm just saying that the things that you're losing, they're still accessible elsewhere, and therefore this is definitely a nerf, right? It's definitely a change that will really punish some builds, right? Because we're really generalizing, and I'm sure there's those builds that are nobody plays, but they have the option to play them, and now they're not really. I mean, one of my favorite builds is the auto bomber stuff, right? And with the assassin changes, and with the changes to charges, and with mostly that, it will be really hard to play that build. Probably, maybe even impossible to where it's even remotely, playable, efficient in any way. But I disagree with the assassin changes. But the charges, those are my arguments for it, and why I don't see why people freaked out so bad.
Yeah, I don't agree with the outright. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I'm not making Reddit threads about it. I'm just they just seem dumb to me. But the one thing which does make me feel a little bit disappointed is that endurance charges feel like such an outdated mechanic and have done for a while. Very few builds really go for endurance charges now. And I know a lot of that has to do with how the game is speeding up, but the fact that you have a lot of melee builds now where it's they could run Enduring Cry, but they won't because oh, that's too much work, oh, that's too much effort. I feel like maybe it's time to give endurance charges a little bit of love now, since they've been
I kind of, because a lot of, I think that not really people haven't really caught up to, but a lot more people are starting to use now is endurance charge on melee stun, which is super powerful because then you just 4-link your movement ability and you always have endurance charges and you don't have to use Enduring Cry or anything. It's totally automated. Because with any melee ability, you always want to shield charge or leap slam or anything like that and really utilize that fast attack speed. But now you've also got all these new support gems that force you into making a conscious decision. Before it was basically a decision between, is it possible for my attack-based build to use shield charge because most of them don't have a lot of mana, or leap slam, or do I have to use blood magic? And if I don't have to use blood magic, then I use the endurance charge. Well, now they're adding a lot of supports that will also force you into making a decision. Do I have 12% less damage taken from physical attacks, which on a melee, in my opinion, especially with the Basalt nerf, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I was gonna say maybe with the Basalt nerf, people swing back around into your endurance charges.
So it's pretty worthwhile, I think.
Alright, now Ziggy, CuteDog, have you got anything more to say, or should we move on?
I'm all good. We can move on to community.
Don't want to get shouted at by Daddy Raiz.
Sorry. I was so mad yesterday. It took me so long. I don't know. No, it's not that I'm. Again, just to clarify, it's not that I'm super arguing with people, because for sure there are builds that definitely got affected by this, but the extent of the outrage by the community to these changes was totally uncalled for, in my opinion.
But on the same token, so I don't really have a big deal with the changes, to be honest, as long as they fix the other stuff that is affected by it, like the items and ascendancies and stuff. But the people's reaction is pretty expected, and Chris even basically said this in his post that he posted at 3 a.m. in the morning, that it's people just reacting based on the information that we were given, which was 2 sentences at the end of a post, with no other explanation of what their goals were, and with no other assurance that other changes would be coming alongside of it that fix the things that get broken because of it. So people were just reacting to the information that they had. So people's outrage, I think, was pretty understandable.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't really have expected anything different if that's the way I carried it out. And this is just like a result of the way they run the beta. Normally, GGG, when they release stuff, it's all done in patch notes with little explanations and italics of the meaning behind all of this stuff and the other changes that are going into it. But in this beta, that we're just releasing stuff and starting to test it, and it doesn't come with all the changes, and it doesn't come with any explanations, and there's no patch notes of what it is changed to an extent.
No, Raiz,
so,
don't
I mean,
interrupt. He segued us perfectly into the next topic. So, with that, do you think that it's time that GGG kind of rethinks the way they announce things, as they stated themselves in their last little manifesto, that, you know, that's where kind of the mistake of that is? Because I think that because I mentioned that in my last video, and so there's nothing wrong with the way they announce things. Like, if you think back to all the outrage around ES, a lot of that was because they were throwing around these random numbers without proper context and stuff. And I think that if they just make a little bit more of a like a PR effort in the way they present their information, they're going to have a bit less back. Like, Reddit will always react angrily to changes, but I think that they could probably learn from presenting stuff a little bit differently.
Like, they always do a great job. They've nearly, well, in recent, like, the last year or so, they've always done a pretty good job with this. Ever since they started adding, like, the italics stuff to the patch notes, explaining, like, the reasoning behind these changes, they've done, like, a fucking fantastic job of this stuff normally. I think, you know, it's just, like, because of the nature of the way they handle the beta, which could probably be improved in the future. But as we said earlier, I think that's just because they don't have time to do this stuff right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're in their little box. They just don't have time to explain these changes so much right now. But I think they will probably try and make that time because of the response that we had to this change in particular. So I think in future betas, they're probably going to remember this.
Yeah, but like at the same time, maybe they were just trying to connect with the community, you know? Because like, if you think about it, when they say 25,000 energy shield, it sounds really blown out of proportion. But then again, if they listen to the feedback of the community and they lose 3% critical strike chance on their build, and they said that their build is literally unplayable, biggest piece of shit, everything's broken, you know, maybe they're just trying to fit in, right?
I think they
be
put
part
too
of
much,
the crowd.
They put too much like weight in Reddit. You know, like you have people now making a post saying, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is and buy a Katava pack if the developers can like show me this exact thing. And then like Chris responds to it, like not just like community manager Bex, not just like someone that works like Chris himself has been like called out, and he's like forced to like respond to these random threats from some jabroni that's mad that his poison build got nerfed. But like I don't do you guys think that's like the right course of action, where like the lead developer has to come into the Reddit and respond to this guy who like doesn't link his profile, like doesn't do anything? It's like I don't know. I think they
like, in that particular example, it's an awkward one though, because like the dude who made that Reddit post was being a twat. Like if that was your mate, you'd be like, dude, come on, you're embarrassing us in public. Like if you were at the bar and someone like said that to someone else, you'd be like, nah, I'm not with him. Yeah. But at the same time, it's one of those things of they do put themselves in an awkward situation sometimes where they're like, so that was on the feedback of, we're nerfing poison again because some people are still doing millions of damage with poison. And everyone at the time on the beta was like, where is this damage? Like, we're struggling. You've nerfed it again. What? And then because they threw out this like blanket number without any like direct example, going back to the 25k ES thing, it's when they do stuff without the examples, people latch onto a number. It's like if, as a YouTuber, imagine if we said like, oh, this is our schedule. If once you set something in place, the second you go off that, everyone will blow up. So they said people are still doing millions of damage, gave no examples.
They gotta stop doing that.
Yeah, like if I think that
like the ES thing, the DPS statement, they gotta stop making those statements unless they have the build that they can show like a little video of or something and say.
And it's so easy with path of building now as well. Like because imagine how like amazing it would have been if Chris just walked into that thread, just slammed his dick on the table and dropped the pastement link. Like that would have felt so good. But it's,
fucking awesome.
It would have been
I mean,
so amazing.
And that's what they're
but
gonna
instead
do.
it was kind of like oh, that's a bit, you know, posting that on a Sunday night, haha, and then sort of like eased out. If I was him, I just would have ignored the thread. It's when you kind of
he's just human, right?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I do the same thing. Like, we all do the same thing when that one dude in the YouTube comments gets us. You're like, fuck this dude, yo. And you tear him apart, and then you read that the next day, and you're just like, I'm a really bad human being. Tarke,
Why did I do that?
I think you'll find you actually mispronounced Harbinger League. Fuck you. Fuck your mum. Kill yourself. Wait, sorry.
Did you just say Harbor League?
I've been saying Harbinger instead of Harbinger, so I've been getting in a lot of trouble recently.
I think it's isn't it like
Harbinger?
American British type of thing?
Sure, why not? I think
Harbinger.
it's just, I'm just adding an R to a
Harbinger.
word. Yeah.
Harbinger.
However CuteDog says it, say the opposite, and the opposite is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Beta
It's
Gigi.
Harbinger.
Okay. Harbinger?
Harbinger sounds weird.
Harbinger.
I said Harbinger.
Yeah.
I'm retarded.
Beta.
The Dadger.
But yeah. So I think basically like the consensus is don't throw out numbers without examples. I reckon on that one. Yeah.
But that's like the worst part. Imagine if you're like in their situation, right? Where you can't slam the dick because, for instance, something that the community hasn't figured out, there's something that they haven't figured out, but GGG has the stats of this like one guy fucking destroying the market by running Shaper over and over with his 25,000 ES one shot insta gib build, and they're like, it's not a balancing change that would make sense in the community's eyes, and they would crash a lot of builds, but it's this one thing that enables this guy to do this thing, and therefore they don't want to say it because then everybody's going to play that build, and they don't have a way of changing it without like destroying a lot of builds for everybody else.
Build of Myth and Legend that you'll know about.
Yeah, buddy. But imagine if that's the situation and they can't slam the dick because then you know.
But if they're gonna nerf it anyway, they can use it as an example for why they're making a nerf. Otherwise, yeah, don't need to give examples if they're not going to change things. Only if they're going to change things.
Imagine,
it's like we're changing this because of this problem, and here is the problem. People will be like, oh yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. No, I see that. Imagine if like maybe later they're gonna be like they're gonna release this information. Like they're gonna be like, we're finally fucking fed up with your 25k meme. Here's why this doesn't apply anymore because we changed it. Go suck one. Like,
they just release a playlist of YouTube videos of god tier builds like that are way better than any builds we ever come up with. Yeah. And we're like, holy shit, they're fucking geniuses. We're hopeless at this game.
You could have been playing this for 3 years. See you later, noobs.
I like the idea that they've got like an in-house YouTube channel with like 1,000 private videos. They just publish all of them on one day. It's like, oh!
This is what you're never getting back again. See you later.
Like it's like this really super epic like Chris Wilson meets Dismantle time, but actually like one-shotting Shaper. Like, whoa.
Oh, Dismantle time.
Oh, so good.
I just mention like Dismantle time every podcast.
You got to drop it at least once a podcast. So. One thing, now I don't know if you guys really have much of an opinion on this, but a lot of people, like, I was on stream yesterday, like, working out topics, people kept asking me this. Do you feel like the data mining has been ruining the recent announcements?
Especially when it's wrong.
Yeah, that is annoying when it's wrong. But, like, so for example, with the new Harbinger League, they've got the Splinters, and now they've already data mined what the new orbs do and stuff, and people are kind of like, oh, that's a bit of a bummer. Yeah.
I like it. Just like it builds up hype, you know. It's like it could be right, could be wrong, and when it's wrong, when it's like something shitty, you're like yes. But when it's like right, it's something good, you're like, oh, okay. A lot of people like to like plan ahead, right? Like plan their builds, like what they're gonna do. So having some inkling, even if it's like a day or two before, it's nice. Like imagine if patch notes came out, got data mined. I mean. You'd want to look at those, right? Even if they could be wrong.
I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to be able to actually like plan around the balance changes rather than the classic like 10 minutes before the league starts struggle. Oh god, remake all the builds. Yeah.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really. The thing is, like, there won't be changes that are like completely mechanically game breaking. It's like a matter of, do I get 10% more damage or do I get 4% more life? It's like, it's not that big of a deal if your build isn't fully min-maxed. And in most cases,
like
it's not, no matter
sometimes
what.
things that get data mined are just prototypes, and they were like never going to go into the game like that. Like mechanically, they're just completely busted, right? So, and then people freak out about that sort of stuff. Like that happens a bit. So that's just like, I think the solution is just ZiggyD needs to keep an eye on it and be like, oh, actually, guys, that's not a thing. Don't freak out.
I mean, also, it's one of those things of there's not really much companies can do these days. It's just so much of like gaming culture at this point that it's just you have to accept it, really.
They cannot put things in the live patch.
Yeah, because stuff always leak out. Like, didn't they leak a bunch of stuff recently by pushing the wrong thing on beta? Like, didn't they like pull something back or something? I remember.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes this stuff happens by accident, but you can be like, you can be like, if you didn't want the currency from Harbinger leaked, then it didn't really need to go into the beta patch. But obviously, the workflow doesn't kind of work that way, and there would be extra work to stop that from happening. But so if it was a real problem, they could stop it. But it's just extra work to stop it.
Shit.
I don't think they mind either. Yeah, I agree.
Think, like all the for instance, I was incredibly surprised that they didn't change Turmoil, like with the backlash of the community feedback. Because if you trace back to just about everything ZiggyD has ever done, it's like they do this shit on purpose. They're like, hey, you know this thing? We're changing it completely and it's totally fucked now. And the community goes, ah! And there's this huge uproar and drama and everybody's talking about it. And then they're like, all right. They put on their Superman costume and they're like, all right, let us fix this shit for you real quick, you know? And everybody's like, wow, ZiggyD's the best. They do this shit on purpose, dude. They do that with like all the race announcements and everything. It's purposely always bad, and then they come in and they're like, wow, I'm here to save the day.
You think they're artificially manufacturing Baeclast so that they can be our saviors?
I think so.
Damn, bro, that's some...
There's like drama going on.
Are you saying that ZiggyD is like botting Reddit? Like making own fake threads to push up hate so they can then come in?
Propaganda machine in full swing, apparently.
That's some like glowy brain shit you guys are talking about. It's too much.
Is officially 15 members of the QA team, so he does know this behind the scenes knowledge.
I don't want to.
Why are there not more ZiggyD in chat now?
Okay then. Well, going from that, so how do we feel about the new league itself? I know that you said that you were a little bit on the fence, Q. I think you're the only person I know who's not hyped for it.
Are you able to pull up like the GIF of the Harbinger Challenge League announcement, like the big one?
So yeah, when I first saw this, I'll bring it up.
I'm not that excited about the league because of this, but I was looking at the GIF and like the guy is lagging. Like the blue guy, an unfinished artwork man, we'll call him. So he like casts his minions and then he like lags to the right. And he gets like stuck on the pillar, and he's like not even facing the hero. Yeah, you look at so he casts it, and he moves to the right, and it's like, oh, I don't know where I am. So I was like, what is that? Come on.
His pathing was a bit janky getting out of there.
It was a little bit weird there. But then, so you look at like the shards, right? Like eventually in the league, a few weeks in, no one's gonna pick up chaos shards. They drop one by one. No one's gonna pick up regal shards. Because all the shards. Yeah, pick those up. Binding shards, after all, like 4-link sockets, probably not. And the map things, I mean, they'll advance the Atlas progression. So for people who play solo self-found, you're probably really jazzed because you'll be able to get more out of the Atlas without having to like really struggle and like fuck up your corruptions and stuff like that.
So that's nice. Because you never get the shit that you want.
Yeah, but I mean, like now it makes Atlas faster, which I guess could be argued either way. And the other things, annulment, if you're like super into crafting, yeah, maybe that can be some really sick stuff with like the master crafts and whatever. But it just seems a little bit uninspired to me. Like at the end game, what do? I collect more shards. Will I ever find a mirror shard? Probably not. Like new uniques are cool. So depending on what like summoning these harbingers do, if that enables new builds, that could be nice. But I do understand that with the new expansion, they have so much stuff they can't like do like a crazy, awesome league. But I don't know, it just seems a little uninspired to me.
Didn't they say that this is going to be filler?
Did they say that? Oh,
Well, with every major expansion, the
It is
Challenge League
usually.
is much lighter because they want it to be less impactful.
yeah,
I wasn't
that's whatever.
expecting like this much of a league, to be honest. I was like pretty impressed personally when I saw this. I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. I was like, I like it in the fact that so lore wise to get a bit nerdy. I know Rise likes this as well. The way they've kind of set it up, it's like we've had Invasion, we've had Beyond, we've had Breach. Now they're setting up this whole new thing, and it has its own like secret language. And even the flavor text on the item has that own little language.
I told you guys. I told you last podcast. Yeah, fuck yeah, it's coming. Everything's coming together. It's nice.
I like that shit. Yeah.
I do like the like secret angle and the secret language and all this stuff. I hope they actually recorded some like badass freaky recorded spoken language that they speak while you're fighting them. That would be like Craigasm. Like imagine these deep kind of bassy voices where they're speaking this like Cthulhu language or something. You're like, yes, that'd be so cool.
If I was them, I would be like taking little snippets out of videos where people complain about their balance, like play it through a synth backwards and stuff, really mess with it.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there like an original trailer where they played back the Templars' speech backwards? Oh, no, it's the Necromancers. The Necromancers used the speech from the Templar trailer spoken backwards and slowed down. That's the Necromancer speak. I should do some of that action. That'd be awesome.
There's a new pet coming though. The spur pet looks pretty sick.
Cool. The pet looks
the
cool.
tiger pet base with blue and on fire. Oh man, I'm gonna buy that.
I don't know. I'm never really hyped for. I don't know. Whenever they announced anything, I'm never really hyped for the league. But then when I play it, I always enjoy it. So
yeah, it'll be fun. 3.0 is going to be a fun time for sure.
Yeah, I think
so. Many
Gameplay
players.
Gameplay mechanics wise, this looks like it's going to be pretty fun though. So that it's kind of Breach like. We chill in an area and fight a bunch of spawning mobs, right? People love Breach, so I think we're going to enjoy that. And then, what can you really do in an action RPG? You can fight a group of monsters, or you can fight a powerful single monster. So this kind of takes a bit more, like when you say uninspired, I kind of disagree because this takes an interesting take on that. It's a powerful single monster, but you don't fight him, you fight his groups of monsters, but he still contributes to the fight. Like I found that's new. I haven't seen that done before, right? You're always normally just trying to deal with the ads so you can get to the boss, or ignoring the ads going for the boss or whatever. But in this case, you're focusing on the ads, but the boss guy's still contributing potentially. You have to avoid his abilities and stuff, but you don't get to engage.
That's really cool. Like it from a pacing point of view. Like Essence was a cool mechanic, but I didn't like how sometimes there'd be this one Essence mob which took longer than the entire map. Whereas with this, you can have these really scary high HP bosses, but because the way you damage them is by killing their monsters, it can like move through the map with you, so you don't have this weird like artificial change of pace, and that I think is really smart. So you can have challenge and you can have something which feels epic without, I've just spent like 2 minutes fighting this one mob when normally I'd have cleared like 5 maps. So that's something I really like about it.
You know what's really cool though is this is going to be like Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon or something when you play as a summoner. Where you're like, you got 2 summoners throwing your minions at each other. It's going to be good, man. They're going to be pretty fun.
Can you eventually fight these Harbingers? Or is it just killing the mobs kills him?
Oh yeah. Isn't there there's like an entire lead up to it now that you're supposed to discover the language and eventually like unveil the secrets and
yeah, we don't know, but presumably there's going to be like some tier that you work your way up into. Where,
I think for sure there's going to be some sort of Uber encounter and whatnot.
The way they've presented it is kind of like you'll encounter these wild things and then it's like you will then go and fight them. So I'm assuming it'll be kind of like Breach, where you then have like the boss room kind of thing. So you have this which you regularly encounter, and then there'll be some kind of system where you in-fight the main thing, sort of head on. Potentially. Okay. How do you guys feel about the splintered item thing? Like the fact that the uniques themselves also have this like 4-part splintered system?
I don't understand if you're capable of like, because the way I understood it was like it was pieces of the puzzle that you could fit into different items and stuff, but I guess you just get, it's like kind of like a divination card, except it's like parts of things. I don't really understand it that well.
As far as, and sorry if I'm quiet by the way, chat. So as far as I'm aware, the way it works is you just get the 4 shards of the item drop, and I would assume it would be each item would have its own shards. I don't know if it's kind of like you can mix and match to make custom items.
Yeah.
I really like it from the point of view of there's few things more exciting when you're like new to a game. You find this thing and you're like, oh, what does this do? And I can imagine that could be a really cool experience. Like you find the shard of this epic, again, I'm getting like proper like RP lore shit here, but like you find the shard of the epic weapon, you then put it all together, you then get the super powerful thing. That's more interesting to me than just it drops. But I can also kind of see it being slightly irritating in the sense that with Breach, it'd be kind of like, you got this item drop early, maybe you can use this as a leveling item and then you upgrade it. Whereas with this, it's like, you just get a thing which doesn't do anything. So I like one aspect of it, but I could also kind of be like, oh, this is kind of bad because you're collecting all these things together to then potentially get something maybe underwhelming or not something you can use right away. So for a new player, that might be really frustrating. It's like, imagine if it was like the equivalent of Perendus, but instead of getting a tabula early on, you just got 3 halves of a tabula and you kept getting the wrong half, and you're just like, brilliant. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, it promotes trading, having like granular sections of these uniques. If they're actually good, it promotes a bit of bartering and stuff like that. You know, you trade, especially when you get groups of friends and you're like, hey, bro, I got the top left. You got the top right to trade? I got a spare of this one. You know, that's kind of cool.
Well, the inventory management of the little shards of the orbs, because they added a new row, but it's not enough for all of them. So now you I just like put everything in like a new tab labeled Harbinger. It's gonna be kind of weird. It's not gonna look that great, guys.
Don't worry, there's definitely gonna be a Harbinger. Now I'm saying it like you guys are. Harbinger. Harbinger. There's definitely gonna be a Harbinger tab. Just don't worry about it.
Hominger, that's how it is. Hominger, that's the one.
Harbor.
But yeah, and also for the 3 halves chat, I wasn't saying 3 halves as in like that. I was saying as if you kept getting the wrong side 3 times. That's what I meant. So it's like you need the left and the right, but you just got 3 lefts.
Oh, good getting 150% of this unique.
Yeah. Okay. Well, unless there's anything else someone wants to add to that, I think we're kind of in the random off-topic-y things before we wrap up. People keep nagging me. They wanted this in. I didn't want to include it since we don't know the patch notes. But what builds do you think you guys might play in 3.0?
I mean, besides the new skills, obviously.
Yeah.
So here's kind of my list that I just rattle off at this point. I mean, Sunder, Frostbolt or Glacial Cascade Mines, Scorching Ray, Summon Raging Spirits. Done. I mean,
I'll start off with SRS. I'll probably be
kind of the list, right?
Yeah. I'll
play things that are good, but
Split Arrow. It's not going to get nerfed. The threshold is going to make it into the game as is, with even another line under the threshold jewel. Adds 1 additional projectile. And so I'm going to play Split Arrow. It's not going to get nerfed. Chris, I'll do anything.
Yeah, 2 weeks later, right? Because it's already going to be out. 2 weeks later, CuteDog's going to come back. So what have you guys been playing? And he's like, Split Arrow. I didn't like it. Too many buttons. I can already see.
One button. It's one button and flash to remove things.
I don't care. If it's not full fireball, it's too many buttons, right?
Yes, I swear. I feel like Ziggy has recently had like a chat with Chris over the phone, like, hey, this Split Arrow jewel. And Chris is like, oh, thanks for reminding me. Taken out of the game.
Kill it.
I really want you to come back in 2 weeks and be like, yeah, so Tornado Shot's pretty good, yeah? Like, when you if it goes live and you make your Split Arrow build, at some point just try Tornado Shot and be like, okay, it's pretty good.
You'll start off with Split Arrow and then you'll try Tornado Shot and realize you don't need a second single target set up, and you're like, okay.
I don't understand why. Yeah, is it really only about the single target with Tornado Shot? Like, I don't really
Both,
understand the
just
appeal of
nice.
that ability.
Tornado Shot like does better when you have less damage. Like it leverages your lower damage more effectively to kill packs. So, and then later on, once you get good damage, once you get the helmet enchant and all that, and extra projectiles and stuff, you shoot like on top of your character and you clear everything in a 2-screen radius. So it works really nicely. But I think I listened to the mirrored gear bow players, and they say that once you get that level of gear, Splatter Arrow is probably the way to go. But I prefer Tornado Shot overall.
As someone who's only played bows for like 2 leagues, the basic rule of thumb for me anyway is it's like if you aren't, assuming you're not doing like weird double dipping stuff, right? Is like if you want to off screen in a straight line really hard, Lightning Arrow is Bae because of the way it just clears through packs. Tornado Shot just kind of clears everything around you. Barrage is obviously just the best single target. Splitter Arrow actually has decent single target if you've got good enough gear. Like Splitter Arrow, it's like if you can get your gear good enough, you get the Splitter Arrow Helm enchant. It's insane. It's why Adice did his like Splitter Arrow Assassin last league, and then people started like, oh, it's pretty good. Like I was doing a lot of Doomfletch Splitter Arrow because I found I didn't need the Barrage setup. And since they were like nerfing, like reach of the council, that made Tornado Shot less, attractive. And they've just nerfed Opus, like that lost 50% multi. So considering they've nerfed all of those things, it does actually make Tornado Shot less attractive because you really want that extra podge stuff on there. But speaking of,
I would say the boss life change kind of makes it a little less attractive to just rock just Split Arrow though.
Yeah, now you want to, now you
Tornado.
need to go back into Barrage and stuff. But seriously, Doomfletch, I've been saying for ages Doomfletch is seriously sleeper, but it's going to be like the best damage.
It's not sleeper, man. Everyone's fucking raving about Doomfletch.
But like even in previous leagues, it was kind of like Baron Astra. It's like everyone knew it was really good, but not many people were playing it for some reason. Like you could buy Baron Astras in Legacy for like 10-20 C. It was just like, but the chance to bleed gem is so stupid. It gives, I think it gives like more flat fizz than an Abyssus or something. It's just like, yeah, seems good. Yeah.
I was doing the same thing. Like even if you're leveling with like one-handers, like you don't have to care about the bleed. You just get it for the fucking flat. Like on a two-hander, you wouldn't feel it as much. But if you're one-handing, that's a lot of damage. It really helps out.
Don't use chance to bleed. Bleed isn't very good though.
True.
All right, well, anyone's got anything else they want to talk about, I think we're kind of wrapped up, really.
Can't wait for Friday.
Can't
5
wait
more
for
days,
Friday.
guys.
Is it that close?
6 more days.
God.
Yeah.
6.
You don't feel
Oh,
it.
that's crazy.
Days.
Yeah, I keep thinking it's ages away. When
Nice.
do you think we're going to get like another big balance thing just before we like go? Do you reckon we'll get another big beta drop before then, or is this kind of it?
Like patch notes on Wednesday, and then that's it.
I mean, me and Raz were saying earlier, we kind of need to if we want ailments to feel a little better, but I don't know. I'm like 50-50 on that.
What if they're just like, we've decided that we can't manage everything that we want to. The next patch is going to be like the next league is going to be 2.6 again. We're postponing 3.0 by another 3 months. Sorry, 4 months extended because we need to launch it in December.
Okay, quickly, since chat asks. Chill Shock. Terrible, right?
What?
Chill Shock.
Oh, Chill and Shock?
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta wait for the new versions.
Because they've already said that like the current stuff isn't finished. Like they said they're going to change it already.
Yeah, it's not finished.
It's really difficult to talk about. It's like when they announce a change, then instantly say this isn't the change. It's kind of like, oh, we can't really. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we probably shouldn't really go any further than that because it's just not done.
It needs work.
There's no point raging about it or anything. I mean, I like the idea of the shock allowing you to kind of build it up over time. You know, you shock the boss, you have 4 seconds in which to hit them again, which makes a bigger shock, and then you hit them again, makes a bigger shock. And I like the idea over the fight, if you're consistent in your damage, you can work them up to a full strength shock potentially if you keep working it up.
Yeah, it works the same way if you ever played WoW, like with the old Ignite, it used to be really problematic because it's like you hit it for 1% of the damage, it gets shocked, it then takes more damage, so your next hit hits harder, so you shock it for more. So it's one of those things which if you can chain it, it's potentially problematic because it means that if it's alive for long enough, you get like crazy numbers. That's why Ignite. If there's any like WoW nerds in chat, like,
but it rewards good play.
Problem, you know?
That's not problematic because it rewards good play.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Yeah. So I like the idea of that.
But anyway, so that was the first Baeclast without Yoji. That feels bad, man. Never forget it. We'll see him again next week, I'm sure. But I'll see you all again in 2 weeks after the new league is going to be out, isn't it? It's going to be like what, a week